All right, good evening, everyone. I will call to order this Tuesday, August 11th meeting of the Plan and Zoning Commission. We will start with our meeting minutes. We have two sets to vote on this time. I'll call them separately because I know, at least for myself, I'm abstaining from one of them. Starting with the minutes from the July 28th. Can I have a motion on that item? Commissioner Randolph.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Randolph moves to approve. Do I have a second? Commissioner Capozzi seconds. Comments? Commissioner Capozzi. No comments. Commissioner Braun.
I don't know if it reflects it, but I had to leave partway through that meeting because I was on vacation. So I think I left before the public hearings took place.
It's on there.
That's on there? Okay. Then I'm good. Thanks.
Anything further? All those in favor of the motion to approve the July 28th minutes, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. I'm sorry. We still have Commissioner Levy online, right? So Commissioner Levy, are you there?
Yeah, actually the Bluetooth is working, or 5G, so I guess I can participate.
Okay.
Yeah, on the 728, I approve.
Okay, thank you. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Next is the meeting minutes from August 4th. Can I have a motion on that item, please? Commissioner Randolph.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Randolph moves to approve. Do I have a second? Commissioner Capozzi seconds. Comments? Commissioner Capozzi.
No comments.
Anything further? I'll be abstaining. I was not there and I've not fully caught up.
I'll be abstaining as well.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the motion to approve the August 4th meeting minutes? Okay, motion passes 6-0 with 2 abstentions. Thank you. Next is a map filing extension request, a request for a 90-day extension by OHI Asset CTG Southport LLC to extend the deadline to file the map for a 4-lot subdivision at 845 Mill Hill Terrace. The initial expiration is August 24th with a new deadline if this request is granted of November 22nd, 2026. Anything to add on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Emmeline Harrigan, Planning Director for the record. This item, as you can recall, they were working out their conservation easement for part of the open space that they're dedicating as part of the 4-lot subdivision, and they just have not been able to finalize that easement language with the Conservation Commission and the town attorney as of yet. So that's why they've requested the extension.
Thank you. Commissioner Braun. You're on mute, Commissioner. You're on mute, Commissioner.
Move to approve the extension.
Thank you. Commissioner Braun moves to approve the 90-day extension. Do I have a second? Commissioner Randolph seconds. Commissioner Braun, anything further?
Yes, this is just going to keep happening. It's sort of beyond their control. So there's no neglect involved. It's just it requires many parties at the table to factor that. I remember discussing it. It was a little bit complicated how the conservation easement was working, but it's important to have the conservation easement. So
thank you. Any from Commissioner Randolph? Anything else from the commission? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to approve the request for a 90-day extension, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. The next item was a request to accept an offsite below market rate units, continuation of that discussion, but the applicant, well, I'll call it an applicant, has requested to postpone to our August 28th meeting. So I'll ask for a motion to postpone that item to our August 25th meeting. Did I say August 28th? I meant August 25th. Commissioner Randolph.
Move to postpone.
Commissioner Randolph moves to postpone. Commissioner Braun seconds.
second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Next are our compliance applications. We have 2 this evening. The first is for 1505 Kings Highway. A sign compliance application of Art FX on behalf of 1501 Kings Highway East LLC for 2 tenant wall signs, Meridian Risk Management and United Security Incorporated, for a shared tenant space in a design commercial business district zone / Commerce Drive area district. anything to add on this?
We're just
Mr.
gonna-
Mullen?
I think we're just gonna bring up the elevations if we can, just really quickly. So what they're asking for is two signs for two of the businesses that are located within this lease space. It is an open floor plan, so it's not a traditional subdivided space. It's two different companies that work within one big space together. So what they're showing as part of these graphics is a similar sign type, which is normally what's required within the sign compliance. As you know, new requests come before this commission for a compliance review. I had some concerns and I spoke to the applicant about this, that I would feel more comfortable graphically with the way that it looks if each tenant would pick one elevation versus having two signs on each of the elevations, just because I think it's a lot of information in a very small area. So I think it makes it much more difficult to read and be readable, but it meets the requirements of our sign regulations. So, I guess the question that falls to you as the commission is, it's a little bit unique because, again, this is a big open space. So it's not, usually it has to be affixed to where the tenant is actually located. Say you had a storefront and each tenant, it's subdivided into three. It's a very easy, understandable way in which to affix signage to the actual tenant space that folks are located within. This is a little bit different because they're kind of in a shared space together. If we scroll down one, John, just one more image. They're really only going to be able to select 2 out of 3 of the alternatives that they've shown here, because for each tenant, we only allow 2 wall signs, each have to be on a different wall. So in this particular circumstance, that little sign that they have to the left of that window is on the same wall as one of the other larger signs that they've shown above. So they can get 2 out of the 3 of these. I leave it to the commission to discuss and decide which of these seems more visually appropriate, and then that would kind of dictate future signage locations should the tenants rotate out.
Thank you, Ms. Harrigan. Commissioner Braun?
Could you just explain, Ms. Harrigan, they have 3 wall signs that they want, and all of them combine both tenants within it because it's a total shared space. I understand that, but we're only allowed to have 2 wall signs. And when you say different elevation, you mean one wall on one side is a different elevation than the other wall? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
And I'm looking here. So one of them, this is right across from New England Avenue.
Yes, that's correct.
And so one of them must face Kings Highway and one faces like a parking lot.
Yes.
And where's the
Correct.
third face? The other parking lot?
So this sign that you see here right now on the screen, that one also faces Kings Highway. And then, John, if you scroll up again, the one to the right, on the image to the right, that also faces Kings Highway. It's kind of it's on the same wall. So that's why they would only, for the photographs that they've shown, they would only get 2 out of 3 of these and not all 3 of them.
In terms of, what do you recommend in terms of which 2 make the most sense?
I think visually, obviously they get more visibility with the 2 bigger wall signs. I just think it's a lot of wall signage for very little wall area, but it does meet the criteria. I just think it's a little visually confusing because it's not like a standard lease space where you've got a gap in between tenants. So I just think it is visually confusing signage to me. I directed the applicant to put one sign for one of the companies on one elevation and then another sign for the other company on the other elevation, because as graphics, it would be clearer even though they wouldn't each get a sign on each elevation. But right now, I think it's visually challenging to look at so much information in a very compact area.
Um, I- Which, there's one entrance though, and that's where the parking lot is, across from Stult's driveway, heating, sealing and repair. That's the main entrance. Or no, the main entrance might be on the other side.
I believe they have an entrance facing the parking lot and then an entrance facing, well, let me take that back. I believe that their main entrance is facing the parking lot, but they have a secondary door facing Kings Highway.
So there's no entrance on the other side, where Citizens Auto Body is, or, okay.
No, one of these is facing Citizens Auto Body.
So we have to pick which two of the three, right?
Yes,
Because they would need a variance if they got all three.
that's correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Randolph.
Is the applicant presenting?
Usually for a site plan review that,
Okay, so I'm just reading the 2611. It says all signage proposed shall be of similar nature so as to represent a unified design as to harmonize with the, basically present a unified design. I don't think the font color, the height, the color of the sign are all unified between these two signs. They're two separate signs, so it actually directly contradicts 2611. And is there a separately demised lease space? Are there two leases in here?
no, it's,
So there's one space.
correct,
So there's one sign per one space is typically what we have, right?
correct. And so
Yeah.
this is a little unusual because they're sharing a space.
Right, so, but typically we have, to your point earlier, the signs are separated because you've got separately leased spaces. So there's one lease space and our rule is to have one sign per one lease space typically, right?
That's correct, for
Okay.
each tenant
So
space.
this doesn't meet the criteria for the appearance and that the fact that there's one space, they're asking for two signs for one space.
And if I could just clarify, we don't require the same type of font, for example, because, you know, if you think of the former Bob's Plaza, which now is their main tenant, has Restoration Hardware, we require the same sign type.
Right.
So if it's a backlit cabinet sign, they're all gonna be backlit cabinet signs. And we want kind of a routine placement along a certain portion of the fascia of the building. So that there's a kind of a rhythm and, to the signage location. Again, we're kind of chartering different territory because I think the way that we work can be a little bit different. So I think it meets the intent of why they can have the signage. It's just a matter of if we feel comfortable with how it's applied in this circumstance.
But the Bob's store is a great example. And I know at Four Corners in Stratfield, they've done something similar where they use the same style sign, which is what, and I know our ordinance is not very clear and a lot of items are very prescriptive, but this is not only not complying with our minimum standards, it's kind of defiance of our minimum standards because we've got one space here and they're asking for two signs on one space. That's my read on it. And then I guess the other thing is, it says it should only be on the first floor. It should not be above, I can't remember what it says. It says it shouldn't be above. It shouldn't be above the first floor, correct?
This meets the criteria. It's below the roof line and it's at the first floor.
Okay, so it's
Level.
not the ceiling level, it's,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so it does meet that criteria, but in terms of the appearance, this does not appear to meet the similar nature and represent a unified design. Because the font style, letter height and back color are different and there's one space and they're putting two signs for one space, so it just doesn't seem to match the intent of our minimal regulations.
Commissioner Monahan.
So if you look at do you have a picture of the building, what it looks like from the street?
Yes.
on LoopNet?
Well, from the street, no, I have an elevation.
So if you look at the building from the street, this is on LoopNet, you can see that there's really no area for the sign. On the front, you would think, I don't know if you can see that, you would think maybe you could split them. I agree with Commissioner Randolph, there's no way two different companies are gonna have any similar sign. That's marketing, right? So maybe you could change the background of the red, white, and blue sign, or change the background of the Meridian sign to kind of flip it, but both companies are gonna have a very difficult time agreeing to that. So maybe you can separate the signs as a way around, and put one on this side and one on this side. And on this side, maybe they're not allowed to have a sign on the one side of the building. And the same on the other, they're staggered, and there's a tree there. Sightline's not great anyway. If you do a large enough sign balanced here, it'll make sense. It won't look great, but maybe you get the red, white, and blue and to put a navy blue. I'm going to put a blue band around it or something. I don't know, that's just my suggestion, because I think visually, this is really what we care about more so than the side of the building. Although from a search standpoint, someone driving by, they're going to want to see the number on the side of the building more than they're going to want to see. That would be my suggestion.
Commissioner Capozzi?
And I don't know the nature of either business. I can just sort of go off what the signs read. But these don't seem like businesses where it's like Wendy's, where somebody's gonna go in off the street necessarily just as a retail location or an arts and crafts store. It seems like somebody would make an appointment to go. So I agree with Commissioner Monahan's suggestion in that regard.
All right, we want to get a motion on the item? Sounds like where it's going. Commissioner Randolph.
I move to reject.
Commissioner Randolph moves to reject. Do I have a second?
We move to modify here, or it's reject and then come back with another plan.
They come back.
Okay. Right, and we can,
We-
let's get, hang on, let's get a second and then we can talk through what additional guidance. Is there a second on the motion to deny the application? Commissioner Monahan seconds, Commissioner Randolph.
I think that we've discussed the issues pretty clearly. If the appearance were more unified, if they were separated, backgrounds were the same with the example, I think Director Harrigan's pointed out an example that could be followed, and that's in the Bob's Plaza or there's other examples, but this is doesn't comply with either our very generous regulations in the first place. So I think if we ask them to come back, that's reasonable.
Commissioner Monahan.
Yeah, I agree. If we're not, giving them ideas today to modify the design, I think we have to reject it. Looks terrible.
I mean, I would say, as part of this deliberation, if folks want to offer guidance, or you would find acceptable, feel free to jump in and do that. Commissioner Capozzi.
I just, do we need to deny or reject without prejudice?
They can come back, right?
I think for a sign compliance, as long as they submit something different,
Okay.
I think, and frankly, we probably wouldn't charge them again. We would just let them
Yeah.
submit something different and just get them back on the schedule.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's not like we're not doing something to foreclose.
No,
Okay.
no.
I have one thing to add. When we approve a building to be built, do we look at where the signage is going to go as part of that?
It really depends on the applicant. So sometimes with some tenants, they will come with their signage areas delineated and they'll make that clear that they're approving the sign location at that time, that they want a certain brand to how they're going to place the signage on the building. It depends on whether or not they've got a tenant in place where they know that that's going to occur. Sometimes it's very speculative when they're doing ground floor commercial and they just don't know yet. So oftentimes you'll see them come back.
Great, in this instance, when the building was designed for that to be thought out before situation.
I can jump in.
Commissioner Levy, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the signs are rather unsightly, and perhaps we could recommend they might consider a unified color scheme.
Thank you. Commissioner Delgado.
If not separated, the only kind of recommendation I have is, I think elevation 1 is more appropriate than elevation 2. and that it's at least leading people into the parking lot as opposed to the one that, as Commissioner Monahan mentioned, is right next to a tree. And so if it was two of the three, for me, I think the elevation one and then the front column would make sense.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to deny the application, and it sounds like there's a consensus guidance to the applicant is to come back and either with a unified color scheme for the two signs or separate locations. Right, all those in favor of the motion to deny, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next is 1096 Post Road, a site plan compliance application of Mohammed Arsian Yunus, B Berry's food truck, to request on-site food truck sales as an accessory to a gas station use in a center design business district zone.
And John's gonna bring that site plan up really quickly. So in reviewing this application, I did consult with our town attorney because this is a little bit of an unusual request, but it is consistent with another approval that we've granted previously for kind of semi-permanent accessory special food sales. And so the example that where we've done this before is Saugatuck Sweets during the winter time when they have their waffle cart. So we're kind of equating this to be a similar type of circumstance. So the request is from B Berry's, which is a food truck. Based on our health department and our building department, they would have to invest a bit in the location to be able to have electric connection to the site. They wouldn't just be able to run their generator, as I understand it. So, but they're asking for a location that is closer to the railroad tracks. I think you can kind of see it here. It's a little bit further to the right than what's shown on this plan. Just shifted a teeny tiny bit to the right. But they would operate just during the week until, I believe it's 9 o'clock, and then on the weekends until 10 o'clock. And opening at lunchtime-ish, but it would be daily. So I don't know if the commission wants to provide any feedback on the plan.
Did not appear they were proposing any site alterations or improvements,
No.
just literally just requesting permission for the space to put that truck in the space and connect it.
Correct.
Commissioner Monahan.
Is it on the site that it currently sits on now?
It's being stored there right now, but it's,
That exact spot?
no, I think it's right now, I believe it's further east of the location where they'd put it. They'd put it actually closer to the convenience store.
We're moving it closer to the.
That's
convenience
correct.
store. Oh, great.
Other questions? Commissioner Capozzi?
Is there a place to eat on site, or is it just strictly walk up and take away?
It would be walk up and take away because there's not really that much other area in which to have like picnic tables or something like that. If they did want to come back with an outdoor dining request, I guess we would have to bring them back to the commission
Sure.
for something in the future.
Any other questions? Commissioner Randolph?
Well, I'm sorry, where on the site is it going? It's at the Citgo station, right?
Yep, so see, it's right now, it's shown as a box that is much closer to the convenience store. I believe that they shifted it over by
I
about,
see the food truck label.
Yeah,
Okay,
they
gotcha.
shifted it over by about, I think about 10 feet. So as not to block the propane tank area.
A motion on the item. Commissioner Randolph.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Randolph, Mr. Approved. I have a second. Commissioner Monahan seconds. Commissioner Randolph.
It's nice to always have a mixed use. This doesn't seem to be adding, it will not add any, gas stations are the largest generations of traffic volume of any use in town, and I don't think this will generate additional traffic volume, any meaningful traffic volume. And mixed use is always something that's it's beneficial to the community.
Thank you, Commissioner Monahan.
I agree with Commissioner Randolph. I also think it's another small business opening in town. They have a very good following, delicious food. I think it's another reason for people to go to that area. So I think it's a wonderful addition, provided it's safe.
Thank you. Any other comments? Commissioner Capozzi?
I agree with everyone. I love a food truck and I think it's great when people can start a business and have a small restaurant. So awesome.
Thank you. Just one,
Go ahead.
one general question. So are these food truck additions only done by exception? Is this an exception?
No, this is a site, so the way that we treated the last one was as an accessory use site plan
Okay.
review. You know, I don't know whether the commission, you know, kind of wants, for the last one that we did, we did do an annual review just to see how it's operating. I don't know if you feel strongly about that one way or another. I mean, certainly if there's any issues, I think that we have the ability to report back to the commission either way, but
I'm kind of going the other way because the only reason I'm asking this is because it sounds like the commission so far is very supportive of these type of uses. And if we could make this something that is either as of right or by exception, we should perhaps discuss that at a further time. But I'm encouraged by the commission's unanimity on supporting these type of uses. I don't know if it's unanimity yet, but our general support.
I think it has to be location specific because, yeah, the as of right makes me a little nervous because there's a lot of sites in town that we just should not be encouraging this, especially multiple ones. I know there's been several, issues surrounding preferential treatment on this topic. So I think it's a nice use.
Fair enough. Yep.
Anything further? All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve the compliance application, please raise your hand, say aye. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we'll move on to our coastal site plan applications. First is 95 Harbor Road, a coastal site plan application of Tide Mill Real Estate LLC for repairs to the Tide Mill Dam located on the Mill River in Residence B Zone. Mr. Mullin.
Hello. Would you like me to go through my staff comments or just go through the?
Just the findings and recommendations, please.
And just in case we have. If Eric Lehman from Race Engineering here, I'm gonna just promote him in case anyone has any questions regarding it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jonathan Mullen, Assistant Planning Director. This is the findings and conditions for 95 Harbor Road, which is a coastal site plan review for dam repairs. Findings are: 1, the entire site is located in the AE10 flood zone. 2, the Town of Fairfield Planning Department has reviewed the proposal and provided conditions of approval. 3, the Fairfield Harbor Commission has reviewed the plans and provided a statement of harbor management consistency with conditions dated July 29th, 2026. Number 4, the State of Connecticut Department of Environmental Energy and Environmental Protection reviewed the proposal and provided a letter dated August 5th with recommended conditions of approval. Number 5, if all conditions provided are followed, the proposal is consistent with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act and will not adversely impact coastal resources. Number 7, conditions of approval. Staff recommends the following conditions in approving this coastal area management project plan. Number 1, soil erosion and sedimentation controls shall be installed and maintained during the entirety of the construction of the project subject site. Number 2, the applicant shall adhere to all the conditions listed in the Town of Fairfield Harbor Commission Statement of Harbor Management Consistency dated July 29th, 2026. And number 3, the applicant shall adhere to all conditions listed in the State of Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection Agency letter dated August 5th, 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Mullin. And just for context, this was to repair
Yes.
damages to the dam. What was the nature? How I got a question about how
Okay, well,
it came about essentially.
So we need how the repairs to the dam are to both sides. There's two sides of the dam, and then in the middle of it is 95 Harbor Road. And on the left side, or the eastern side, is the primary spillway, and there's a dam spillway opening that's going to be replaced. And on the west side, it's the secondary spillway, and there's going to be repairs to that as well. I can, if you'd like any further detail, I do have the project engineer online. if
I
you-
think I think the question was really about why were how was the damage caused? Why was it necessary in the first place?
Mr. Chair,
Sorry.
for this particular dam, I think it's just age.
Yeah.
I think that it had been repaired over time in the past, but it's just due again. It gets beat up quite a bit, especially, just with rainstorms and whatever, but I think it's just based on the age of the spillway itself.
I'll ask for a motion on this. Well, we could get questions after a motion. But again, just a reminder, as always, to when making a motion, if it's to approve, to not only approve with the staff recommendations, but also to adopt the findings as articulated by Mr. Mullen. Commissioner Randolph.
Move to approve with the conditions and the findings adopted by staff.
Thank you. Commissioner Randolph moves to approve with staff conditions and findings. Commissioner Braun.
I would like to hear from Race Engineering because I'm reading the harbor management report, and as you may or may not be aware, when any project is proposed that could affect the harbor, which this is part of, obviously, it requires their approval, or if they give a negative approval, it would require a supermajority of our commission to approve the project. So they're not against it. In fact, they say it's consistent with the harbor management plan, but there's some provisos, and I would just like to hear from the engineer about it. So one of the provisos of the harbor management commission report is
Commissioner Braun,
appropriate-
hang on. Let me just stop you right there because I'm gonna end up having to make you repeat yourself in a minute anyway. Because we have a motion, so I just need to get a second. I'll come back to you. Just
Oh,
so you
okay, sure, yeah.
read it again. Yeah, motion is to approve with staff conditions and findings. Is there a second on that? Commissioner Delgado seconds. Commissioner Randolph.
Yes, so I'm just reading the findings here that the planning department reviewed the proposal and provided the conditions for approval. So this has been reviewed by the planning department. It's been reviewed by the Harbor Planning Commission. And they provided a statement saying that it's the suggestion's consistent. The state DEP reviewed the proposal and provided a letter with recommendations, conditions which were adopted. So we've had the experts look at this. They've all approved it. I'm technical, but I don't know nearly as much as these people do. So I think that I've got a lot of confidence in who's reviewed it and the recommendations.
Thank you, Commissioner Delgado. Don't worry, Commissioner Braun, I'll come right back to you next.
Nothing further.
Okay. Commissioner Braun, and I'm sorry
Yes.
to cut you off. I just knew I was gonna have to make you repeat
That's
your
okay.
questions.
So the proviso of and again, the Harbor Management Commission, they have their job, we have our job. So we're here for a reason. We take information from other entities and we make our decision. So the information Harbor Management Commission has provided is that it's consistent with the harbor management plan, provided that number one, appropriate best management practices are required for application during construction to ensure no significant adverse impacts on coastal resources and environmental quality, including water quality in the harbor area. Also, number two, appropriate requirements are established and responsibilities assigned for monitoring of the proposed March 15th to June 15th tide gate opening to provide fish passage upstream in the Mill River. And three, the potential environmental impacts of the proposed tide gate opening have been carefully evaluated by DEP during the regulatory review process. I assume that's been done, but you can answer that. And that DEP has determined any adverse impact will not be significant. In addition, they're also talking about the water diversion that was approved by DEP a few years ago, from the Hemlock Reservoir, and how that could be affecting low flow conditions, which could be affecting this perhaps before or after. So I would just like to hear a little bit from the engineer about this. And also, there's a cofferdam that's going to be put in during the process. I'd like to know how that works and how that will protect the passage of fish, because I know there are some endangered species that go up and down the harbor, I think. And one last question, has Shellfish Commission been involved in this at all? Because I believe there are shellfish beds in that area. I know when the Exide project to clean the lead out of the river was done, this was a part of that cleanup project, and there were shellfish beds down here. So if you could just address some of those questions, that would be great.
Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, I can definitely address the questions.
Eric, could you hang on?
If I could,
Eric, could you just hang on one second while the director,
yeah, I mean, if I could just clarify, the DEP issued a permit for this. Our jurisdiction ends at their jurisdiction area. So I think the questions that you've asked are good ones, but they're within the jurisdiction of the DEP. Within a coastal site plan review, our job is to look at the upland areas relative to that DEP. You know, we're not looking in the water. That's DEP's jurisdictional area. So the cofferdam installation, the question that you asked about fish migration, those are all great questions, but they're within DEP's jurisdiction. They're not within the jurisdiction of this commission. We have to look at the upland areas and the construction activities and make sure that those are being properly monitored, any mitigation measures are being installed. That's our jurisdictional area, but in the water's the DEP.
Right. So I would still like to hear from the engineer about this.
Okay. Sure. So, thank you, everybody. I'm Eric Lehman from Race
I'm
Coast.
having trouble hearing you. Maybe speak a
Oh.
little clearer. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. All right. Let me know if this is a little bit better. So yeah, I'm Eric Lehman from Race Coastal Engineering. I'm going to be representing the owner of the property. So to answer the question regarding the cofferdam, so the cofferdam is not going to be installed after the March 15th to June 15th time year restrictions. So yes, that was something that was coordinated with Deep Fisheries. So the cofferdam is not going to be installed at that time. And then yeah, so if there was, I think there was a couple other questions in there as far as best management practices, erosion and sedimentation controls are going to be used. So yeah, and yeah, if there was any other specific questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Else?
I have a question.
Commissioner Monahan.
I mean, this might be a silly question, but why is the property owner paying for this if it's a dam essentially?
It's a privately owned dam. The town does not own it.
It's a privately owned dam.
Correct. I will disclose that the town did apply for a DEP grant to assist the property owner, but we were not awarded it. So, you know, we see value in obviously making sure that the dam is in good shape because we've got a public road that crosses over it, but it's actually owned by that private property owner. It's not owned by the town.
And then aesthetically, when this is finished, will it be restored to, because it's a historic site, will it be restored to exactly what it looks like now, or will there be a different visual?
No, I think it's really just to repair what's there. It's not removing and then replacing with something that looks a bit different. It's just really replacing, you know, like there was a little bit of armament that I think is sloughed off over time on the dam and the fish passage. I think there were a couple improvements to the fish passage that were recommended by DEP, but other than that, it's going to look fairly similar.
Go ahead, Commissioner Braun.
I was having trouble hearing. Did the experts say that they are using best management practices to ensure no adverse impacts on coastal resources and environmental water quality? And also, there will be some monitoring of the March 15th to June 15th tag gate opening to deal with fish passage. I assume that's required by DEP, but did he confirm that?
Best practices, you could speak to the second one, which I don't believe you addressed.
Yeah, so we will be, yeah, so the cofferdam is not going to be installed within the March 15th to June 15th, and the gate will be open within the March 15th to June 15th timeframe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion to approve the application, adopting the findings as articulated by Mr. Mullen and with staff recommendations, please raise your hand. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Next is actually the first of a few related applications, but I'll call them separately. 3541, 3553, 3571 Post Road and 886 Kings Highway West, a coastal site plan application of attorney Sarah Sharp on behalf of contract purchaser Subjet LLC for construction of a two-story, approximately 14,000 square foot commercial building for day nursery use with excavation and site plan improvements in a design commercial business district zone. Mr. Mullen.
Good evening, Commission. Again, for the record, Jonathan Mullen, Assistant Planning Director. The findings are as follows. For one, there are no coastal resources on or directly adjacent to the site. Number two, the site is located within the coastal area management boundary, but not within the FEMA flood zone. Number three, the Town of Fairfield Planning Department has reviewed the proposal and provided conditions of approval. Number four, State of Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection reviewed the proposal and provided a letter dated August 3rd, 2026. Number five, if all conditions provided are followed, the proposal is consistent with the Connecticut Coastal Management Act and will not adversely impact coastal resources. The conditions of approval are as follows. Staff recommends the following conditions in approving this coastal area management project plan. Number one, soil erosion and sedimentation controls shall be installed and maintained during the entirety of the construction project at the subject site. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. I have a motion on the item. Commissioner Randolph.
Move to approve with the adopted findings and the conditions of approval.
Thank you. Commissioner Randolph moves to approve with findings and recommendations articulated by staff. Commissioner Braun.
I just have a logistics question, so I can't vote on the actual application, but the coastal site review is completely separate, right, from the actual application for this?
The special
This is-
exception.
Yeah, because I didn't,
They're separate votes, so if you want, you're free to abstain
I-
from one and vote on the other if that's what you
I
want.
think I can vote on this then, yeah, so this satisfies everything and it's
Well,
far.
Are
from any
you
coastal
seconding it?
resources. Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, I'll second it, yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Braun seconds. Let me go to Commissioner Randolph first.
Yeah, so again, this has been reviewed by qualified technical resources, the town planning department, DEEP. And that the conditions for approval are minimal, negligible soil erosion and sedimentation control. Shall be maintained during the entirety of the construction project, which is a standard condition. So this has been, our job is compliance. This appears to be compliant. And that's why I'm to approve.
Commissioner Braun.
It's far removed from coastal resources and it's not in a FEMA flood zone, so yeah, I agree.
Further, Commissioner Monahan.
I'm still very concerned about traffic and safety at this site. I spent some time sitting over there kind of at the traffic flows at different times a day, and I'm not convinced that for 160 student school that that's the ideal site for it, although I think the Goddard School is an excellent school and we need more schools like it in town. I really hope we pay special attention to the traffic there in particular, and also the safety of people crossing the street. It's a confusing intersection. We did receive public comment from Mr. Tertzian on this topic, talking about convergence of many different roads and developments. We have that many roads intersecting I think it creates a little bit of chaos and I think, you know, it just makes me nervous. That's all.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion to approve the coastal site plan application with the additions and findings articulated by staff, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 with one abstention.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. Next is the same project, different application. So 3541, 3553, 3571 Post Road and 886 Kings Highway West. A special exception application of attorney Sarah Sharp on behalf of contract purchaser Sebjeb LLC for construction of a two-story, approximately 14,000 square foot commercial building for day nursery use with excavation and site plan improvements in a design commercial business district zone. Can I have a motion on this item? Commissioner Randolph.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Randolph moves to approve. Do I have a second? Commissioner Levy seconds. Commissioner Randolph.
This is on the Post Road in a sensitive area, and we got feedback from neighbors. The entry is only on the Post Road. It's not on one of the back streets. There's been a lot of thought in putting a site plan together for landscaping, creating a perimeter, and also giving us feedback on some of the more recent ordinances that ask that buildings front the street better. It's a needed function. And it's a compatible use with the area. And the traffic studies that were presented were thorough and complete. I know traffic's always something that requires really diligent evaluation and that standard.
I'm going to ask that you.
With the
just,
conditions?
not conditions in this one, but findings. This is,
Oh.
again, we are starting to do this just
For,
to be accurate and complete in our record. So to adopt the findings that this meets the standard conditions for special exception.
okay, so yes, I'll add that it meets the findings for the special. Thank you.
Move to approve and to adopt those findings.
Move to approve and adopt the findings.
Okay, with
Thank
that.
you for the clarification.
Yes,
Okay.
I think the Goddard School has an excellent reputation. I'm very familiar with that intersection. I recognize the convergence to Kings Highway, street there that comes in an acute angle, and the Post Road, somewhat problematic. But I think the applicant has done a very good job of setting up the traffic flow for drop off and so forth, and the scheduling of, the morning sessions so that it should minimize those problems. They clearly are committed to safety of the patrons. The traffic control signal in the area should alleviate many of the problems. And I'm particularly impressed with the fact that the neighbors in the abutting condominium all generally spoke with approval. In fact, they, thinking back 10 years compared to the reaction to the prior Walgreens approval, here's one that they all wholeheartedly endorsed. And I think that should carry a fair amount of weight as well. The only thing I do recall, there is one concern that we add a condition or a recommendation that there be no access from Kings Highway. Is it Kings Highway there? Or,
There is no access.
there is none.
But I think,
Okay.
I think you're right that there was discussion of an additional fence behind
Yeah.
the trees just to sort of ensure that.
Yeah, perhaps that could just be a recommendation as
Commissioner
well.
Randolph, do you want to add that as
I
well?
believe there is a fence and there's landscaping there already. It seemed to meet the intent of that concern.
I think, it's your motion, do what you want. My recollection is that the developer indicated they were willing to do that.
Okay, so we can add that as a recommendation. So,
But unless it's in writing in the future, an opening could be made, correct?
A revision to the site plan would normally have to go back to the commission. So
Some of
we
the
would bring it
future-
back if they
Yeah,
revise the
if they
site plan.
wanted to open the gate up in the back, they would have to come back in front of the
That's
commission,
correct.
correct? Great.
Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion to approve the special exception application with the findings articulated by staff and with the recommendation that additional fencing be added behind the landscaping on Kings Highway, please raise your hand. And Commissioner Braun, you're abstaining on this? Okay, so the motion passes 6-0 with one abstention. Thank you. Next, same project. Zoning regulation amendments, an application of Attorney Sarah Sharp on behalf of contract purchaser Sebjeb LLC to modify section 6.5.1 design business districts to allow the town engineer to modify the width of driveway access and section 32.4.3 special exception / day nurseries to add standards for properties with multiple lot frontages and screening requirements along lot frontage. Can I please have a motion on this item? Commissioner Randolph.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Randolph moves to approve. Do I have a second? Commissioner Levy seconds. Commissioner Randolph.
Our recent change to zoning regulations did not consider all of the different issues that were that would be encountered, and I think this is a reasonable modification to our design business district to allow the town engineer to modify the width, and the engineer is a qualified licensed professional. The intent was to make sure we didn't have driveway cuts that were too wide to encourage pedestrian movement. I don't think I think this adheres to the spirit of that.
Thank you, Commissioner Levy.
Yeah, and I think it's an appropriate delegation of discretion, the appropriate guidance, where in special circumstances, the town engineer, for purposes of public safety, can permit access wider than the 24 feet, which was largely focusing on walkability, but we need to take into account the safety of ingress and egress in certain unique situations.
Thank you, Commissioner Monahan.
So to be clear, this is about the distance back from the road on both sides of the property.
It's the width of the exit
The
to,
width of the exit, but then we also discussed that the setback from the street does not need to be the same on the front and back.
Correct.
Okay,
Two
so-
different.
So these are both included in the same amendment, correct?
Different sections of the regulations.
Same motion, same item.
Same
but
item.
different- Two
Yeah.
different sections being modified. Any other comments, questions? Commissioner Randolph.
Since I just addressed the driveway width, I think that the exception for the setback, and thank you, Commissioner Monahan, for raising that. I think that it's appropriate. The regulations were really primarily focused on our center design district and denser areas. So this provides proper latitude to applicants for locations that don't necessarily have a street wall.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion to approve the application to modify section 6.5.1 and section 32.4.3, please raise your hand. Commissioner Braun abstaining on this. Motion passes 6-0 with one abstention. Next, we'll turn to our public hearings, beginning with 166 and 172 Pine Creek Road, a special exception and coastal site plan application of Kevin and Natalia Coiner for an addition to an existing single-family structure with retrofits for FEMA compliance on a lot with two legal pre-existing dwelling units in the Beach District Zone. Previously, heard this item and began public comment, and I believe we left off, we held it open. And Attorney Green, was planning to present on this, is that right?
You need to review the material that was submitted at the last
Yeah.
minute. Just keep them limited to that.
Yeah, are you prepared? Well, he hadn't presented on anything yet.
Okay.
Well, there's been a lot of material submitted by the applicant.
We're hearing it tonight. We're not going to keep delaying this.
Sorry?
Are you saying you're not prepared to?
No, I'm prepared, but I thought the applicant would present its new material rather than my appearing twice to address the
The
material.
applicant. Do you have, were you planning to present the new material? My recollection was that, as of the last time, I know you had wanted to just raise it then.
Yeah.
Do you want to go back over new material?
No,
Or do you
and
want to just-
for the record, Kevin Crusaden for the applicants, my office is at 243 Broad Street in Milford. The material we presented was either follow-up to what Attorney Green submitted or in anticipation of what we think the arguments may be based on what he submitted. So it's not new information for our application, it's rebuttal information.
Okay, thank you. All right, Attorney Green, you're welcome to come up.
may I seek a clarification of the address?
Right.
Is this on Pine Creek Avenue or Pine Creek Road?
No,
Huh?
it's nice and cabinet.
Oh, I did it again.
Avenue.
Yes, it should be Avenue.
Well, the agenda says road. Joel Green, Office of Green and Gross, my pleasure to appear before the commission this evening once again on behalf of Renee and Ron Noren, the owners of the property at 178 Pine Creek Avenue. And I would submit that once again, the agenda is erroneous. It identifies it as Pine Creek Road. It is Pine Creek Avenue. There is South Pine Creek Road. This is not that. So I'm going to reclaim that defect in the notice just for the record. So, and I presume going forward, there were new materials that were submitted. I presume that on rebuttal, the applicant is not going to be able
We'll follow the same standards we always do, which is to keep rebuttals to previously covered. It's info that was already in the public record.
just give me a moment.
Oh,
So I went back and I reviewed some of the materials that were submitted. I reviewed the video of the initial session of this hearing and some of the information that the applicant had presented. And I would really like to emphasize that this is a special exception, that there are some very discrete standards and findings that this commission has to make as part of its special exception review. And I think that there's a lot of distraction and there's a lot of discussion that doesn't necessarily pertain to this property that won't aid the commission doing that. The applicant has the burden of presenting evidence sufficient for this commission to make those findings, and we would suggest that they haven't done that. But more significantly, equally significantly, when I reviewed the application, there's a lot of confusion as to what happened here, and the applicant seemed to be seemed to suggest to the commission that they were surprised that they had to appear again. I think it's frustrating and interesting that I'm here having to explain this again. This is the applicant, because we've always followed the guidelines. And I think that's important. And I think one of the functions of this commission is to uphold the zoning regulations, and obviously the zoning regulations make reference to state law and that kind of thing. And the applicant submitted that it has always followed the guidelines to a T. And basically, there were some questions asked by the commission. I was a bit surprised that members of the commission apologized to the applicant that they had to jump through hoops. That was one of the comments that was made. And sorry that the applicant is in this situation. As I had indicated when we were here last, the applicant is in this situation with a half-built house because the applicant went forward and built this project in the face of an appeal. And my clients and I appeared before the Zoning Board of Appeals. We presented the same case that for two dwellings, a special exception is permitted, is required, or where you build or substitute one or more dwellings, section 11.4 of the regulations requires that you get a special exception. And the applicant at the last hearing seemed to be suggesting that they were surprised by this, but they are not making the same argument now. What happened was, and I think the applicant did sort of try to approach this after the last session in a submission today, but what really happened here is the applicant was suggesting to the commission that it's always wanted to have two dwellings on the property as had previously existed. But that's not what the applicant presented to the Zoning Board of Appeals. To the Zoning Board of Appeals, the applicant said, we are going to remove the kitchen from the cottage, and we are going to really reduce the number of dwellings on the site to one dwelling. And on that basis, the applicant claimed, because we're reducing 2 to 1, we don't need a special exception. We can get a certificate of zoning compliance over the counter. And Mr. Decker, in fact,
Attorney Green, let me just interject real quick, because I said this at the last meeting to, I don't remember if it was the applicant or a commissioner or a member of the public, but this right now, I just want to be clear for everyone who's listening, this is a special exception application. This commission is not here to weigh in on whether any entity from the court to town officials to ZBA or anyone else acted properly, made the right call. We're not refereeing them. All we're here to discuss is the special exception application that's before us. So I just want to state that again. I said it last time, but I'll say it again. So
yeah, I think that's fair, but I also think it's fair to respond to the comments that the applicant made, suggesting that they were being forced to follow some sort of procedure or jump through hoops, when really they're having to go through the same regulatory process that everyone in Fairfield has to go through in this instance. So we are here. They are seeking 2 dwelling units now. I will tell you that they did not seek 2 dwelling units a year ago when we started this process. And it was only, Mr. Coiner said it, that it was only when the decision came down from Judge Radcliffe on July 1st that he ran to get a special exception. And yet in the transcript, which I've put into evidence, it was always evident that if the applicant intended to have 2 residents, 2 dwelling units on the site, they needed a special exception. And even Attorney Kersaden said that to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So I just want to make that clear. The applicant also reported that they've always followed the rules, but really what's happened here just historically, and there was a question from Commissioner Monahan about the stormwater drainage, and the response was about the stormwater drainage for the cottage, the nature of the stormwater drainage. And the applicant said, and I quote, well, there's no work proposed on the cottage, therefore it doesn't require any stormwater, any change in the stormwater. And I believe that was when the consulting engineer was before the commission, and that question was asked, and that was the answer. But the reality is that the applicant did not follow the rules, and in 2024, they in fact made exterior improvements to the cottage, and they raised the roof on the cottage. And I've submitted the entire permit record for the property, the entire record that the building department has, and there were no permits taken out. And that is a violation, and there were exterior improvements, and the stormwater was not addressed. And so in that instance, the applicant did not follow the rules. And I have photos of the before and after of the cottage to provide to the commission. These have been submitted into the record. So that's a violation on the site. And I'm sure that the consulting engineers were not aware of that work, and therefore said that there was no work performed on the cottage, but in fact there was. It's all there for you to see. Next, when the applicant decided to go forward with the project based on a certificate of zoning compliance, the applicant did not follow the rules on the stormwater system. Now, I know now that a consulting engineer has reviewed the plan, and I know the town has reviewed the plan, but the fact of the matter is that your stormwater regulations, which I've submitted into the record, and the Connecticut general statutes and the state regulations require that, and the town engineering department regulations require that before you proceed with a stormwater system, you have to design a plan. And it has to be designed by a licensed professional engineer It has to be signed off on by a licensed professional engineer. This is before you get going. And yet what happened here was you have photos that I've put in the record, and you have now a report from the consulting engineer on the project. After the work was done, everyone seems to be blessing the system, and yet the applicant did not follow the rules in section 28 of your regulations. They did not follow the town engineering guidelines and requirements, and they did not follow the Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual, which once again require a design plan from a licensed professional engineer, particularly in a CAM zone. And they require test holes in the location of the stormwater system. They require, it's all spelled out in your regulation, and I submitted it into the record, so you have it. I won't take up time with this, Mr. Chairman. But once again, the applicant blew right by that regulation and went forward and started digging and put in this system. And now everyone's kind of backing into it. I note that the consulting engineer from Codis Bodie backs into it, but puts qualifiers in his report. Curiously, the town engineering department even notes that it's already built, but we approve it, but it's already built. So the procedures were just ignored. So yes, the applicant, I mean, don't worry, because the applicant didn't jump through these hoops, but now they do with this special exception. But yes, so now the applicant is commenting that it's frustrating that their home is, quote, under attack. There's the notion, I next want to talk to you about what is really happening here. I have some photographs of the before and after of this house and this special exception. The applicant appeared before you and said, all we're really doing is raising the house up and putting it down on piers. That comment was made at 2 hours, 3 minutes and 20 seconds. The foundation just went right up. Foundation just went up and went right straight, and the structure went right straight down on the piers. And I just want to submit these drawings to the commission. They're all in the record. I'd submitted them electronically as well. That shows that that is not at all the case as to what's happened on this site. And you can see, and you know, I will take a moment to editorialize. There is the story of the ship of Theseus, which you may have heard of, which you take an ancient ship and it was built out of wood and the planks keep getting replaced, and ultimately do you still have the original ship? Well, in this case, virtually the entire structure has been replaced, and the fact that there are a few boards left, a few planks left, and a few sistered structural members, I think it would be fair to say, and you draw your own conclusions based on this drawing, whether this is a new structure or not. But I would suggest that the applicant's suggestion that the house just went up, back down on piers is really not a fair comment. You can go back and watch the video and hear that comment. So you can understand my client's lack of confidence in this process and concern. The applicant said that viewscapes are not protected under the special exception standards, and that counsel argued that, and that my clients have no right to a viewscape. Well, on one hand, that is true. Purely a viewscape is not protected, and that state law was established in Connecticut. Really, in Fairfield, there were cases like Simcoe and the like that dealt with viewscapes. This goes way back. But instead, the true argument by my clients is that one of the findings you have to make is on property values, and that it will not affect property values. This house is sited towards the water. Expanding the house laterally towards my client's property reduces the view. We have put in photographs that show how the viewscape from my client's property is impeded and impaired by virtue of this addition that's being moved towards their house. I'm sure you'll hear from a lot of people in the neighborhood that this house is prominent and closer to the water. And sort of, I think there's a great sense of frustration by a lot of beachfront owners because it feels like this house is being allowed to do something that no one else along the shoreline is being permitted to do. So we had submitted an opinion by an appraiser. We had submitted an opinion by a realtor on the impacts on values. And curiously, I noticed that the applicant submitted a review of our materials by Mr. Frankie, who's here this evening, who's a well-known appraiser. And it's curious to me that he, in his response, basically prepares a critique of the opinions that we offered. But Mr. Frankie was not asked to offer an opinion as to impacts on value. So in other words, the applicant has used their expert to discredit our experts, but has not offered an opinion. And I don't expect that they will, and they really can't at this point, because once again, they chose not to do that on their case in chief. And I trust, Mr. Chairman, that you'll kind of respect that. There won't be new materials put in. But I note that Mr. Frankie is a well-known appraiser. He has testified in a number of cases, including cases on the Eastern Shore, where he offered opinions that suggested that there were adjustments to value based on the extent of the viewscape from structures. And I think there's a couple of cases in Madison. I was just reading one. For example, Rosenblum versus Town of Madison, where Mr. Frankie adjusted, it was an issue, and I believe he adjusted the value based on the extent of the viewscape. And I don't think that it requires a lot of imagination to understand that a house with a vast viewscape versus a narrow viewscape has more value. But the applicant chose not to provide the commission with any evidence on that. We've talked in the past about cases like McLaughlin, where it speaks to the burden of a party to establish and to produce substantial evidence on findings that must be made by the commission. And that certainly didn't happen here. The next thing is the site plans. And I would suggest that the site plan that was submitted by the applicant, and I have copies for the commission if you'd like to reference it. I've submitted into the record the standards for A2 surveys. And to begin with, this improvement location survey does not meet the standards, and I, again, submitted all of that into the record, but it lacks reference to markers, to pins, and to reference points in terms of the location of boundaries. It does not speaks to the apparent dike easement. Well, I've submitted the dike easement into evidence, and there is a dike easement, and it only refers to an apparent dike easement and doesn't truly define it or describe it. Let me just go down the list. So there's no points of reference or marker data. It lacks baseline data. And when you look at this plan, the applicant failed to provide you with an existing site plan and a separate proposed site plan, so that the commission cannot possibly compare the two and understand sort of what's happening here. Instead, there's this drawing that is superimposed. I note that the addition doesn't have any dimensions on it even. A lot of the features on the site have no dimensions. Again, no dimensions for the addition. But The significant thing that I find is under existing conditions, this suggests that the lot coverage existing is 26.9, and the lot coverage is actually being reduced to 26.8. Under your regulations, I have a larger copy if anybody wants to refer to it, by the way. Well, it'll help. But under your regulations, you're entitled to one of two scenarios. You're either entitled to the coverage that existed as of the date of adoption of the beach regulations in 1989, or 20%. So this drawing suggests that the existing conditions are 26.9%. And I question that. I have a survey that was approved for zoning compliance in 2002. It's in the record. Submit copies for commission. And this survey was submitted to the zoning department in connection with renovations, interior renovations to the main house, 166 Pine Creek Avenue. And few distinctive features, which I'd like to point out to the commission, is that this survey, it makes reference to makes reference to monuments and pins that are found. You can see along the road. It provides directions and distances to the town pin, to these measuring features. There are iron pipes which were found. There are towards the waterfront, there are drill holes found. And there are specific references and distances to baseline. So this appears to be a much more detailed and scientific survey that complies with the A2 standards. Significantly here, this is February 26th of 2002. This was signed off for zoning compliance, and the work was performed. And in the record of permits that I submitted to the commission, all of the permits were issued, a certificate of occupancy was issued for the work, and this survey formed the basis for that. Looking at the site, at the time there was around the site, around the cottage and around the building, there was brick that was set in sand. You can see that there were basically bricks that were placed in the sand. You can see that there was asphalt pavement on the site at the time, but there was not this network of wood patios. And I've submitted photos to the commission that show the site before the work was done. And there were like these wood walkways that were on grade. So it was basically wood on the ground, on grade around the house. And I don't know when that was installed, but what I do know is that it did not exist in 2002. So those wood walkways were not indicated on this plan at all. There is an area of concrete here. There's an area of brick and so forth. There's also some asphalt pavement on the site. And I note that when we appeared before the ZBA, Mr. Decker appeared and did a really good job of explaining to the Zoning Board of Appeals that the town does not count asphalt towards coverage. And you can't trade asphalt for coverage. And he pointed out, and it was kind of interesting, but he pointed out that then homeowners at the beach couldn't like have large driveways and just tear up the driveway and build giant homes. And the fact is that under the regulations, you couldn't have those impervious surfaces. So you couldn't take credit for them, was his point. So on this application, he explained on 166 and 172 that when he looked at the site plan and reviewed the site plan, he said the asphalt paving was was not a factor at all. It's not counted. You can't trade for it for coverage, for example, and that kind of thing. But I would also note that there's testimony in the record, and there was a comment made, I think, by the consulting engineer that the asphalt paving had been torn up anyway at some point, and stone had been substituted for it. So the point of all this, just to get to the point, is this drawing, as you can see, shows that this house, this structure, the structures on the site were maxed out at 20% in 2002. So in 2002, and the basis for that whole project that was approved by the commission and for which a CO was issued was based on a site plan that showed site coverage of 20%. Right to the limit, it was 20%. And then for some reason, here's a survey that's updated through February of 2025 that shows suddenly somehow an additional 6.9% of coverage. And I would suggest to you that whatever coverage that 6.9 stands for was obviously added after 2002. Therefore, it did not exist in 1989. And therefore, the coverage on this site, absent a variance or some other permit, which was never issued, that you can't, that 6.9 excess coverage is illegal and was added without any permits. And therefore, this plan, which would propose a 26.9% coverage or 26.8 now, it's not zoning compliant. So when counsel for the applicant suggested that suggested that the town had approved this as zoning compliant, this is all zoning compliant, that's simply not the case. Also, we talked about the number of dwellings. There's absolutely no evidence in this record, and there can't be any evidence added at this point because we're in public comment now. But there's no evidence as to 1989, but the best evidence in this record is clearly that probably 20% it was maxed out. Let's see. Stormwater plan, we've pretty much gone through that. No analysis of soils, no stormwater plan. Everything was done after the fact. We discussed the illegal alteration, discussed the appraisal. I've put a lot of materials. I've strained the staff a little bit with a lot of emails. I apologize for that.
A lot of information in your folder, a
But
lot of information.
it's all in there. I just want to be sure that there is a robust record. And by the way, this is not about what other people in the neighborhood get. It's not a barter with other properties. It doesn't matter what else has been done in the neighborhood. It doesn't matter who's gotten a variance. It doesn't matter who's built what. Each one of these properties must follow the rules. By the way, let me put this into evidence because I think, well, it's in evidence. The applicant submitted it for the record, but the applicant submitted the approved site plan for my client's property. And it was approved for zoning compliance. I don't even know what the zoning history is with my client's property. I don't know whether they got variances. It doesn't matter because it doesn't change the obligation of the applicant here. But I want to submit this, and I just want to submit this. And once you get it, I want to just point out one significant fact for all of you because I think it's important.
Are all these handouts in the record already, or will they be put in the record?
I apologize, Commissioner Braun. They are all in the record and I can.
I'll find them. That's fine. Yeah.
The significance of this drawing that I have just given you is If you can note in the upper right corner of this drawing, the site plan specifically recites the method of calculation of existing coverage. You see that there's existing coverage and it shows how that coverage is apportioned on the site. Whereas on the application here, the coverage is not shown. The method of calculation is not shown, and there's no basis upon which anyone could verify the coverage claimed by the applicant. So I think that's significant. I also note that this survey also fails a lot, what I understand to be A2 standards, but I'm not here to evaluate that, obviously. I do note, though, that the dike easement is specifically referenced in the notes.
You identified the exhibit you just passed out so I could look at it?
It's, I think it's in, the applicant submitted it, and I believe
Oh.
it's site plan for 178 Pine Creek Avenue.
Okay.
May I ask?
Up to the chair.
So, it's my understanding your plan acquired their property in 2013, is that correct?
I don't know.
I believe that's what it was. Was the structure, the Pointers, that's the Pointers home that's being built, has that moved towards the water? Beyond the
I don't
original
believe-
footprint?
No, I don't believe that the structure, moved towards the water. No, I have no reason to believe the structure moved towards the water.
Okay. Do you know what the statute of limitations is in the town of Fairfield for any non-conforming zoning issue?
I believe that, first of all, coverage is there's no statute of limitations on coverage violations.
Were the Coiners, when the Coiners acquired their property, I believe in 2009, what was the coverage on the lot when they acquired their property? Do you know?
Legal coverage is 20%.
Right. But what was the coverage when they acquired their home in 2009? Because you're showing in 2000, you're claiming there's a discrepancy between 2002 and 2026. But at what point was that?
I wouldn't have no way of knowing that unless they got a survey when they purchased it.
Okay. But is it your understanding that the statute of limitations generally is 3 years for it?
So it's not a statute of limitations issue. It's I understand it, it's non-conforming structures. And there are some statutes that forgive, for example, setbacks under certain circumstances for a structure that's existed for a period of time. In other words, after 3 years, there are statutes that govern that, but that does not apply to things like coverage. So if you have non-conforming coverage, it is not legally existing if you added it afterwards, meaning.
But we don't know, but you don't know if the Coiners added the non-conforming.
I don't know whether the Coiners added it or their predecessors in title added it, but I do know that in 2002, only 20% of the site was covered.
Right. But correct, but you don't know is the answer.
I have no way of knowing. But somebody, I don't even know, look, I can't even tell from the drawing that they're relying on what the pre-existing coverage is before this got drawn over it. In other words, we've all seen, this commission's seen many applications where you get an existing condition survey, a raw A2 survey that just shows existing structures and existing site features that meets the A2 standards. And then the proposed conditions are set forth on a site plan, and you can compare the two. So you can compare the data. I also, by the way, I also put into the record, just out of curiosity, because I was curious, the Penfield Pavilion, for example, drawing only counted only 9% coverage. You know that much of that site covered with pavement, and there was some discussion of permeable pavement. But once again, the only thing counted on coverage was the actual buildings on the site, and it's only 9%. Whereas you could tell that a large portion of that site is covered with permeable surface. So that further bolsters the argument that, paved surfaces are illegal and they're not counted. The regulations don't allow them.
The size of the deck that was existing and the deck now, I assume the deck is staying as part of that would count toward lot coverage.
Yeah, as I understand it, there was some discussion of raising the deck commensurate with structure. But again, we don't have that. I can't even calculate that based on this drawing.
Commissioner Randolph.
As tempting as it is to get into the calculations, I'm going to ask some more general questions. And I'll follow up with the calculation question at the end because I think I identified a discrepancy, but so I guess this whole, and I appreciate Chairman Crusillo keeping us focused on the fact that this is a special exception application and you're testing that it does not meet that criteria. And I'm just going to read the general standards as I understand it. That says the location, type, character, and size of the use of the building shall be in harmony with and conform with the appropriate orderly development of the town, and not hinder or discourage appropriate development or impair value. Right. So you're contesting out of those things value impairment. Was what I gathered, because the nature. The second one is fire access. You haven't argued that. The street serving shall be adequate to carry prospective traffic. You haven't argued that. Landscaping shall be provided in accordance with the regulations. You haven't argued that.
Well, I want to argue that. I want to just throw in that there is no existing landscaping plan shown. And that's one of the requirements. They reference the special permit standards. And among the requirements are drawings showing the existing landscaping, which I know is of interest to you always, Mr. Randolph, but I just reminded me of that.
Did you add that? You get a lot of information. Or did you add that the deficiency in landscaping here?
I didn't mention it earlier, but it just occurred to me that you raised a good point.
So, but did you add that to the evidence that there's no landscaping?
It doesn't exist, so I can't add it.
So you're saying that the landscaping plan, it sounds like that would be a deficiency that needed to be
There's a
corrected.
proposed landscaping plan that was added last week.
Okay, so there is a landscaping.
But the standards in 31.7F and in the site plan, special exception regulations say, here's what you have to submit, and you also have to submit everything you have to submit for a special permit. So you have to submit a site plan that complies with the special permit standard.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand.
Existing landscaping is one of the requirements.
So landscaping is, and the last one is E, the proposed shall be in conformity with the master plan. You haven't argued that it doesn't comply with the master plan.
Well, my argument on that would be, I do have an argument on that in that the storm.
I haven't heard it yet, so that's,
You can do it now, or it can wait.
so let me just recapture. So the general standards, you're saying really it's the value impairment and the landscaping. Those are the two things on the special exception you don't think comply, because that's really what we're here to evaluate, a special exception, correct?
Well, there's two aspects that you're here to evaluate. One is for special exception, and in order to grant a special exception, the site plan has to comply with the zoning regulations. And there are also special exception standards. So if your site plan doesn't comply, then you can't grant a special exception. And then you're also here on a CAM review, and 22A 105, I think, of the Connecticut General Statutes requires that in reviewing a CAM site plan, the commission must find that the site plan complies with the standards in the zoning regulations. So the CAM must fail on that basis as well.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get a lot of information here, just trying to provide some context to it. So I think what I'm seeing here is this old survey from 2002.
Stamp for zoning compliance and built based upon that.
Yeah, and it says, it comes up with a lot size of 11,000 square feet. whereas the new survey comes up with a square footage of 11,370.
Yeah.
And I think you noted, and I think anyone who's had a survey done knows that the accuracy of modern surveys is far superior to the analog ones because of the technology. So, but you're claiming that because of the deficiencies in this A2 drawing notes, that's a basis for rejection. Although there are items here, so like the water valve location, which would be an anchor point, there are datum points indicated on here, but they're just not dimensioned. So
They're not dimensioned and they're not measured to, and they're not used as reference point.
what I see is they're measured to in reference points, but you're saying that the inadequacy of the notes. But I think we can all agree that the accuracy of a modern survey that's done with GPS is down to, I think, 1/100 of an inch. It's incredibly precise. So even though the notes aren't here, but you're suggesting that this is, I don't think you contest this is inaccurate, but you contest that it doesn't comply with all of the numbers because this is an analog. This was done with an old transept, paper and pencil. These are not as accurate as the modern ones, but you're saying that the drawing doesn't have all the indications.
Well, I know that you do a lot of development and you're familiar with these technologies, but I can only refer to the regulations of Connecticut state agencies and the Connecticut general statutes, which refer to markers, boundaries, pins, and those sorts of features as being required on a survey.
Right, and so I would contest some of the markers are here, but you're saying, but I guess my point is that this lot seems to be, based upon modern technology, 11,370 square feet, not 11,000 square feet, which would potentially contribute to the discrepancy that you've cited. And I think your note, and it's ironic because it was the same surveyor presented the one that you says is a better example, but I think your point is well taken that square footage and lot coverage is not indicated on this one, on this, the pointers drawing, and that's, so the deficiencies that I think you've identified are, and I'll come back to it's really impairment of value. And then the technicality of the submission of this, what is arguably done with modern technology, a more accurate, that has come up with 11,370.
Let me just insert this for the record.
Let me ask one last question and then you can respond to me. So on the impairment of value, a letter here, I'm sure many people in the public haven't read it because there's a lot of stuff here, but it says the appraiser visited the subject site and its opinion is the dwelling partially obscures, adversely impacts the enjoyment, marketability, and value of the subject. I don't see any comps. Were there comps in here? Was there any evidence that the value declined? Because impairment of market value is not a prevention of appreciation. It's an impairment is a reduction in the value of the property. So I'm just wondering if I'm missing something here. So I'll let you.
You're bringing a considerable amount of expertise here on surveying and on marketability.
I'm not. I'm a generalist.
Okay.
Jacqueline Picarillo's letter didn't cite any of any comps.
Yeah, so-
So let me say this.
So well, I'll repeat my questions and then you can get back to them because I know you've given us a lot of information. So what, if you could tell us what basically, because we're here to look at the special exception and whether it complies with CAM, what parts of the special exception specifically focusing on value, and then you talked about stormwater compliance. I think you said that there was stormwater compliance now, but the process of achieving that wasn't correct. And then the A2 survey, I think you cited some technical deficiencies here. So if you could I'm just going to stop now and then, but if I'm just going to stop now, and then you said landscaping too. So if you could address those questions specifically, I would.
No existing landscaping plan, as I said earlier, but I think the fundamental point that you are missing here is I brought these issues to your attention. The burden is on the applicant to satisfy the condition of these facts. And so these disparities exist, these issues exist. And the applicant hasn't met its burden demonstrating, one thing's for sure. One thing is for sure. A, those wood walkways did not exist, regardless of what you want to say about the accuracy of the 2002 survey. And I'm not sure I fully accept the fact that because we have GPS technology, that it's under all circumstances better than the survey that was done in 2002. So I think you may feel that way, but I don't think that's fair. But one thing's for sure, the surveyor identified it as bricks and sand and not as any wood walkway. One thing's for sure, the asphalt does not count towards coverage, and you'll see in the transcript that Mr. Decker spends, the zoning enforcement officer, spends a lot of time on that, on what constitutes on standards that we use in Fairfield on for asphalt pavement. So you and I can debate all night about the differences between the 2002 survey and this 2025 survey, but that surveyor could certainly identify the material on the ground around the structure, and it was brick. And here, the footprints of the structure have not really changed. So where do we come up with that extra 6.9%? So we don't have to worry about calculation of coverage. We have to worry about how those features came to be after, without a permit. But again, submitted the whole permit history.
I have a question for Attorney Green. I missed the first hearing on this, so excuse me if I'm repeating anything that you went over last time, but I'm just trying to summarize. So the 2002 survey put the site at 20% coverage. Now they say there's already existing 26.9, but the 6.9% appeared after zoning regulations, so it cannot be a legally non-conforming coverage, right?
It's
Therefore,
illegally,
it's a coverage violation. Is that the contention?
correct.
And therefore, the cure for coverage violation, is that a special exception or is that a request for a variance
That's a
based on
request.
hardship?
That would be, I suppose that would be a variance. This commission can't.
Based on hardship, which is why you get variances. But so we're here for a special exception, not based on that, based on the requirement from Judge Radcliffe. And that was because of the type of work being done, not because of the coverage violation.
8-2 vests in this commission the jurisdiction to adopt regulations and enforce regulations. And 8-6 vests in the Zoning Board of Appeals the authority to waive the zoning regulations. This commission cannot waive the zoning.
Okay. And, okay, thanks.
Commissioner Monahan?
Has the second surveyor, land surveying services, revisited the site at all to, if this was brought to their attention? I mean, everything is different, even setbacks.
February 5th of 2025 was apparently the last work, according to the revisions.
And there's no other, documentation. This is the only survey that exists that they've
So
created.
they've submitted, it's kind of funny because the stormwater system has apparently been added in this pink or orange, whatever this is, and yet there's no revision date on the drawing.
So have they been asked why there's such a difference between the old survey and the current survey?
Well, I think they're probably going to explain that to you.
Okay, great.
Or They can answer that.
Commissioner Levy?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Judge Radcliffe's opinion, he didn't address a number of issues that he specifically referenced. For instance, there was an issue as to whether it's one or two houses. Is it your position, let's say they knock down the cottage, would they still need a special exception if it's just raising the
Yes,
house?
yes.
And if you could explain your position on that,
Yeah, I can.
and assuming that this is a rehabilitation or improvement and not a new construction.
Section 4.5 of the zoning regulations was originally 11.4 in the old version. Now it's 4.5. As to a lot in one ownership which contains more than one dwelling, one or more buildings in place of such existing dwellings and containing no more than the existing number of housing units as contained in such dwellings may be erected, subject to all other requirements imposed by these Beach District regulations, and subject to securing a special exception from the Town Planning and Zoning Commission in accordance with section 32. So Judge Radcliffe's interpretation is that one or more, whatever you're doing in the Beach District, and the reason, his reasoning on that was that otherwise, all of the properties in the Beach District with two homes would be non-conforming. So this made them conforming, but it imposed a standard of review for special exception if you wanted to change anything on one of the, whether you're taking two buildings and combining them, two dwelling units and combining them into a single building with two dwelling units, or whether you're taking two dwelling units and consolidating that coverage into one dwelling unit in a single building, you have to get a special exception and it's got to meet. And that was sort of to provide a protection so against these legally existing non-conform, well, now they legalized them, but it was subject to review by this commission.
But that sort of combining or making those sort of changes. I mean, what about totally making it less non-conforming? Or I guess in this sense, it's conforming by regulation, but by eliminating one building, you're making it less non-conforming and you're left with the.
Yeah, well, okay, so yes, but you would, you still have to fully, your site plan has to fully comply with the zoning. And I think the point was, and I think Judge Radcliffe's point, and you can see the way this structure was dramatically redone, that there's no question that this was subject to that. And in fact, interestingly, Attorney Kersaden, when he appeared before the ZBA, specifically told the ZBA that if we were going to have two dwellings on the site, we'd have to get a special exception.
And is it your position that this is new construction or is it simply bringing it up to flood regulations?
My position is it's new construction because of the dramatic nature of the work and also these illegal alterations of the cottage. I think it's new construction, but it really doesn't matter. This section still covers that.
Now, in terms of the I'm not sure if it's non-conforming in light of the regulation but did both buildings predate zoning?
Yes.
I mean, this footprint appears to be the same.
One of them did. I believe one did and one didn't. I'm not sure.
And if they both predated zoning, then assuming the footprint hasn't changed, whether it's 20% or 26%, that would be okay if it predates zoning.
I agree with that principle. But I don't know that A, that's the case, and B, I have a survey that says that the structures are only 20%.
Yeah, well, I mean,
And
but it could be the survey's wrong. I mean, it says represents, there's a footnote there, represents total lot coverage is all building.
166 on the filter says the date of construction is 1926.
so we're pretty close.
What is it,
1928.
Okay, so they both predate zoning. So
Both structures, I think one was built. There's two. I can't remember. One on the other one.
And in terms of the steps on the deck, you agree that that would not be included in coverage or coverage?
My understanding is that there's a regulation that exempts
But really, it's a question of whether they've, in terms of the 20 or 26%, ultimately, I guess it's a question of whether the footprint changed.
You're saying you mean from 19,
From 1926, I mean, if the footprint is the same, whether it's 26% or 20%, that's a question of which surveyor's right.
well, the only issue I would raise there is, yeah, okay. So the only issue I would raise there is cases like McGuire stand for the proposition that you can't, and I think you may be able to get a variance for FEMA, but vertical expansion in Fairfield of a non-conforming, even a legally existing, it may increase the non-conformity under certain circumstances. But I think FEMA is something you can go to the ZBA for just raising like a structure in its place. I think that is recognized as a hardship that justifies.
We have an exemption within our regulations.
That's new.
No, it's been around since 2013.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more questions? Anything else from you, Attorney Green?
Just one other, Commissioner Delgado and I were just playing with the numbers. The calculation of the 20% is wrong on this old one.
Okay.
And so if you take the square footage, even if 11,000 square feet is correct, you take the 1750 and you add the 959, you get 2709, and that gives you a 24.63% lot coverage on this.
That's not correct,
I'm
because
just reading the numbers off of the exhibit you provided. The calculation of 20% is incorrectly calculated on this old survey.
yeah, except that it's not just the residences, it's not just the buildings. There are other factors that contribute to coverage.
So then if the coverage would be increased, then,
I don't know.
well, if you're saying if that would be excluded, then the calculation would be greater than 24.63.
I'm not an engineer.
Well, I'm just saying that the numbers here are incorrectly calculated. And you can see somebody like used whiteout on the 20% here. So I'm just bringing that back. I'm just bringing that to your attention. So.
Well, I can tell you that this was formed the basis for the approval and zoning and the issuance of a existence of this structure. So if you're telling me that the coverage is actually higher than what I'm telling.
On the original plan.
Then what I will tell you is that it's an illegally existing structure and that this should not have been granted.
The structure we said was pre-zoning, right?
Yeah, but I don't know what happened after. I only know 2002. I don't know 1989.
Okay, I'm just highlighting that, so.
Do you know the square footage of the new structure? Pointer's new house that would be, if it were completed, what would be the square footage of the new?
According to
$37.14.
that's the floor area. That's the total floor area. It's in some of the documents, but I don't have it at my fingertips.
So would it be approximately 4,000 square feet?
No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, I'm just curious, do you know the average square footage of the homes in that area of Pine Creek Avenue?
I could not begin to tell you. It doesn't really matter.
Well, I would just assert that one of the criteria for us considering a special exception is whether the nature of the structure is in conformity with the neighborhood in which it is, in which it exists. So I wanted to just understand from your perspective if your opinion on the size of the structure is out of bounds or within reason with the existing homes of the neighborhood or even the size of your client's home.
I don't know.
No, no. Okay, thank you.
Anything further from you, Attorney Green?
No, I just want to, as always, thank you for your patience, attention, thoughtful questions.
Thank you.
All right, we will turn to public comment, beginning with folks in the room. If you're joining remotely and wish to speak on this or any other item, please make sure you're signed in and click the raise hand button or indicate in chat that you want to speak on this item. Otherwise, we won't be able to get to you. Is there anyone in the room who wishes to be heard on this item? Just say your name. Let's keep it to 3 minutes, please.
Hi, I'm Raymond Picarillo. I live about 4 or 5 homes down the street from the construction site. I've been there 18 years and like them, I also saved 15 years to build my dream house. And 3 years ago, I went before the zoning to raise my house, which was a legitimate raising because I didn't take any of the walls down or anything. I just internally and wanted to build slightly different decks. And we were told by zoning at that point that I couldn't add any more coverage. And my lot is bigger than their lot. And my coverage is less than what theirs is, and which doesn't seem fair to me because I wanted to be bigger. I wanted to add out more. On the same point, I wanted bigger decks, and I was told that I wasn't allowed that due to setbacks towards the water. And so I couldn't do it. And my house is set back 30 to 50 feet further back from the water than that house is. Which puts me in compliance, and in hindsight, when I look at all my neighbors up until that point, we are all pretty much even until we get there, and then that house just jets out. And it blocks the view to the west, more impact on the people who live closer than me, but nevertheless, it blocks the view to the west. What worries me most, because it won't affect me as much as the first few homes next to it, but which worries me most is I have one house next to me that when it's sold, it's going to be torn down. And the other one where the neighbor's talking about doing modifications and enlarging it. And if we set a precedent that allows them to go much further forward, it would definitely affect my views and the character of the neighborhood, which I think is probably more important than some of the technical information you're looking at, whether or not he complies or not. So I don't think it's fair to anyone that lives there that they have to worry about other people building, tearing down homes or raising them and jetting them out further. It just won't be right for the people that built. That's all I wanted to say. I don't think it's a good idea.
Anyone else in the room who wishes to speak? Come on up.
My name is Meshberg. I live at 226 Pine Creek Avenue. I have no expertise in real estate matters in terms of regulations and so forth and so on. I do have experience in living on beachfront property. And there's a tendency to have a race towards the water. And as has been said here before, if you look down the line of all the houses on Pine Creek Avenue, they're all relatively straight until you come to this structure. This structure abuts out substantially greater than the rest. I'm far enough away, so for myself, it's not an issue. But as the previous speaker said, all of these houses in this neighborhood, many of them are going through reconstruction, tearing down, building new structures, making exceptions, allowing houses to go substantially closer than the existing line of sight of the existing houses will result in a situation similar to other communities I've lived in. It's just a race to the water. So I'm not skilled enough to pass judgment on all of the calculations and regulations. But and I'm sure that there's been unnecessary suffering on the part of both the Norans and the Corners. It's unfortunate. But if you can do something to prevent this race to the water, which would destroy the integrity of the neighborhood, please do it, because it will happen unless you, our elected officials, stand up for us, the taxpayers of the community. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room want to speak? Mr. Mullen, anyone online?
No, Mr. Chairman.
I'm Barbara Davis. I live on French Street, which is one street back. And my husband and I have been there for 34 years. So we've seen all the houses go up in the last, 34 years. If this particular house, I know it's their dream house, but it stands out like a sore thumb. If you stand on the berm, you look at it, it just sticks way out. I mean, it's glaring. But my biggest concern, honestly, is the water, the rainwater, where our house on French Street, all the water comes towards us. We are the first house on French Street, which is like the farthest west. And the rainwater comes down this no-name alley and ends up right in front of our house and then sluices off and fills a side yard. And then it goes into the marsh, which is fine. But, we've been very lucky that, things have stayed relatively calm, but I don't anticipate that. I anticipate that changing. These weather patterns are crazy. So that's a big concern of mine. And also the precedent of this house sticking out so far. That's it.
Anyone else wish to speak on this item?
Hello, my name is Jim Bennett. I live at 234 Pine Creek Avenue. I live between this gentleman and that gentleman, and I'm not going to tear down my house. Oh, okay, good. I want to thank you all for doing what you do as volunteers, elected officials for our town. I appreciate you've got to deal with issues and conflicts. I renovated my house in 2012. At the time, I was told by the staff that I couldn't move forward to the water without a special exemption. My two neighbors, who are not these gentlemen now, were there, and I was told at the time that if I moved my house forward, that going for a special exemption, that my neighbors' voices would be paramount in your minds as to whether or not I could do that. I chose at the time not to do that. My house is parallel with all the other houses. I'm further away than the Norans to this house. And I do appreciate the coastline and the fact that we're all equal distance from the water. We do have a lovely community, and I'm sorry for this conflict, and you all will decide what's best for our coastal community. Thank you.
Anyone else want to speak?
Mr. Chairman, we have someone online.
Okay. Who do we have?
Daniel Schley. Great. Go ahead, Daniel.
Oh, thank you. I've been trying to figure out how to unmute. Thank you very much. And thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to speak today. I live at 186 Pine Creek Avenue with my wife, which is 2 houses to the east of the Coiner project. And I want to say that my wife and I have done our best to maintain a dispassionate perspective with respect to the condition, the positions taken by both the Coiners and the Norans. It's a little hard to do when you look to the west from our house and see what is truly an enormous edifice being constructed right off the seawall. So please bear with me. I don't have a whole lot to say, but it may take a bit of time. It has taken me some time to fully appreciate what the Coiners are doing and why so many neighbors have stepped forward in opposition. After examining the facts and reviewing the commentary by the Coiners and their attorney at the January 28th public hearing, I've drawn a series of conclusions which I'd like to share with you this evening. I'd like to begin by inviting the commissioners to reflect on the following statements made by the Coiners and their attorney. In his opening remarks, the Coiners attorney stated that the Coiner building plan plans to, quote, elevate and improve the existing structure. And Mr. Coiner later stated that with their design, they will be, quote, elevating the existing structure. Two very important statements by the Coiners and their attorney. Secondarily, with respect to the second livable dwelling, Mr. Coiner stated on two separate occasions that, quote, no work is proposed on the cottage, end quote. Later, in response to a question from one of the commissioners, Mr. Coiner stated that the house will be built on, quote, same foundation, same footprint. These very clear and unequivocal statements provide clarity into the Coiner strategy and raises a series of red flags, which I find very troubling. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not speaking to the legal issues or the regulatory issues. I did get rather schooled by Ms. Harrigan as to the regulations. I thank her for that. And I'm mindful that in reading these regulations across from her, that she had one interpretation and I had another, and I think that's what happens quite often. So let me state the following. First, the Coiners committed in writing in a letter dated April 22nd, 2025, that they would dismantle the cottage and turn it into an office. They obviously did so to bypass the special exception rules related to a second living dwelling. Obviously, in the testimony on July 28th, we heard something very different, that the Coiners never intended to convert the cottage into an office, nor remove the living room or the stove and other components. And I find this extremely troubling when they say, quote, no work is proposed in the cottage. One could surmise from the statements on the 28th in conflict with the Crusadeian letter on April 22, 2025, that Mr. Decker in the town of Fairfield may have been materially misled, and that the Coiners may have obtained their certificate of zoning compliance under false pretenses. As a concerned citizen of the town of Fairfield, and speaking to the commission here, I find that just very, very troubling. Second, in their filing with the town of Fairfield, the Coiners defined their project as, quote, an addition to a non-conforming dwelling, end quote. I interpret that as implying that it was a renovation, not new construction. They went on to declare to this commission on the 28th that the modification would build on, quote, the same foundation, same footprint. Now we know now that those statements are materially inaccurate. The prior structure has been torn down. The old house no longer exists. The old foundation no longer exists and is placed in an entirely new home. Again, one could surmise that this was a material misrepresentation as to the intent of their project, and that misrepresentation was reported again on the 28th. Now, I have to reflect for a moment on the commentary earlier this evening about the signage in the town of Fairfield. I found it fascinating in two respects. Number one, there were the regulatory issues that you were debating, and then there was the interpretation and some judgment being applied. I heard from the commission, quote, we don't require the same type of font. Quote, we are charting a different charting different territory on how the regulation should be applied. And one of the commissioners stated that the signage looks terrible and is unsightly. Another said we require a unified color scheme. We should require a unified color scheme. This is an interpretation, it's a judgment call. And what I respect about the commission, and I appreciated this conversation, is that you're looking out for the best interests of the citizens of Fairfield. You're looking out for the best interests of the people whom you represent. And I want to thank you for that. And that's sort of a backdrop here because, you know, we can argue as to whether this is in conformity or not, whether it's in compliance or not, whether it meets the regulatory requirements or not. I appreciate what Attorney Green had to say, whether it's 22% or 26.9%. And let me say, by the way, that somebody should figure that out. But reflecting more on a personal level, I find the pattern of deflections and misrepresentations deeply troubling. In my opinion, the coiners need to refile whatever permit applications they have on record to respect the need for accuracy while complying with all of the regulatory requirements. Their decision to initiate construction and proceed at warp speed does not, in my mind, obviate the need to comply with the need for accuracy and all regulatory requirements. And let me say one other thing. On the commission, you all took a look at the sign and rendered an opinion. I would invite every one of you to come over to our house at 186 Pine Creek Avenue, step on our deck, step in our lawn, go up to the seawall, and judge for yourself, and listening to what others have said here, judge for yourself whether this project with this magnitude reflects the best interests of the beach community and the town itself. I will tell you that we can argue all day long about whether the Norris property value has dropped $10 or $10 million. That's almost irrelevant. When you come to our site and you take a look, you know exactly that the fonts aren't right. You know exactly two signs, and you just know. And I think at the end of the day, we can argue regulation, we can argue legality, we can argue all of this stuff. And truthfully, with all due respect, I don't find, I mean, it's important, but it's not important. What matters is there's not a single person on Pine Creek Avenue to the east of the Coiner property that thinks it's a good idea. Not a single person that thinks that sticking out, not only to the extent they are, but then coming all the way across their property is a good idea. Going up 3 levels is a good idea. Not a single person would agree that this was built on the same foundation, because it wasn't. It's really a mistake. It's a real problem. And that's why the neighborhood's up in arms. And that's why I'm sitting here in Cody, Wyoming, came out of the wilderness today, where I couldn't get a cell reception, to sit before you and tell you that I think there's something is fundamentally and materially wrong here. And the truth is that there's this very simple solution, which is the Coiners should lift their house and move it back to be appropriately in line with the other properties on Pine Creek Avenue. And that's what should have done in the beginning, and we wouldn't be sitting here today. So that's basically what I wanted to share. And boy, I thank you for not interrupting me, because I know I had a lot to say. Thank you.
Anyone else online, Mr. Mellon?
Yes, we have Adele Moran or Moran.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Ryan and Del Moran. We're neighbors on Pine Creek Ave, and also I've done a number of construction projects in the area, specifically on Pine Creek Ave and also on Fairfield Beach Road and other waterfront communities. I just wanted to reflect back on something Attorney Green was saying that I think is, at the heart of the issue, and Dan Schley also just referred to, which is, however they arrived at this point, the intention of the regulation has always been, I think, fairly applied, and it was very clear that a point would be drawn, between neighboring properties in such a manner that the house being constructed would not be proud of that house to be fair and equitable in terms of viewscape, natural light, and just the consistency of the coastline. In this situation, when we talk about the existing conditions that existed, the spirit has always been one of reducing the amount of nonconformity. And the regulation was written, and as former zoning official Joe Benkowski used to, I think, properly state, it was a protection for existing homes where you had to make an insignificant remodel or renovation to not adversely impact or harm them if there were existing non-conforming conditions that predated the regulations. But in a case like this, where clearly this is a new construction project or quickly became one, the spirit and intent is to have that fair and equitable relationship between the houses, to not only not impair their viewscape, but also not impair their property values. And again, I'm not going to opine as to how it arrived at where it did today, but I don't know if the commission has had a chance, if all the members have had a chance to tour the property and actually look at the construction that's taken place. But from wherever it started to where it is, I think they'd agree that it's completely new construction and not in keeping with the regulations as they were written or intended or have ever been applied. And again, I've built a number of waterfront homes on the street, and they've never allowed this sort of condition to um, be implemented. And in fact, quite the opposite in terms of really working to reduce nonconformity and not allow a situation like this to occur. So I just want to share those sentiments, and hopefully there's a meaningful approach that can resolve this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mullen, anyone else online? And before we close public comment, anyone else in the room who wants to speak who didn't get a chance, come on up.
My name is Matthew Halleck. I live at 6 Somerville Street in Fairfield. My mother lived on Pine Creek Avenue for many years. It's a lovely street. And I totally endorse what you guys are saying. It's not appropriate to build that big extension. But you guys, everybody on Pine Creek Avenue would have a heck of a lot more community support if you weren't so obnoxious with the beach. You closed off that entire beach to everybody. You built that wall there. It's not your beach.
Let's not address people in the
All
room.
right, sorry. It's not their beach. All right, it's obnoxious. A woman came out and started yelling at me. She goes, "Get off my beach." I said, "Who says this is your beach?" She goes, "Fairfield Town Ordinance." I said, "The ancient laws of humanity allow unfettered access to the sea." She didn't know what to say, but it's true. The beach belongs to everybody. So that's all I have to say about that. I find it very obnoxious that they close off the beach to everybody. Thanks.
All right. Anyone else in the room? All right, so we will close public comment. I'll go back to Attorney Crusaden for rebuttal. Do you want to ask Ms. Harrigan the question? What?
So, Ms. Harrigan, I have a question. So usually what I've seen is when a home is lifted and moved, it's lifted, it's moved a bit, and stilts are put on site. The home is then erected, brought back and placed on the piers, and then finished on site. Is that generally, is Matt still here? Is that generally how the lifting happens? Because that's all I've ever seen in 22 years as a
Usually,
realtor.
usually what we see is, when a house lifter moves a house up, elevates it up, they usually put the cribbing higher than those foundations will be constructed. So it actually rests above where those foundations are. It's very unlikely that I've seen them move a house back and then move it forward again. It is possible. They do it in some circumstances.
Happened on 1141 Fairfield Beach
Yeah,
Road.
it depends on the construction, whether it's they don't have enough space or something like that, but generally they just move it all the way up, put extra cribbing above, and then gently lift it back down.
So
Or bring it
looking
back down.
at the construction of this house and these pictures in terms of what the property, how the property was framed, it's all new wood. There's no old wood here. I mean, this is new construction.
It was a lift and then an addition. So, depending on what the building code requires, they do replace materials, but we do consider that to be a lift of the existing structure.
There's
Like-
no old wood here. There's no beams that are older. There's no siding that's older. None of it's older. So that's just my question about, I'd love for you to talk to that.
Thank you. For the record, again, Kevin Crusaden, my office is at 243 Broad Street, here with the Coiners. Sitting next to me is Al Frankie. He is an appraiser who submitted a letter to the commission for the record earlier. I also have Bob Wee, professional engineer at the Coiners, and Neil Jane, the surveyor. That'll be followed, Mr. Frankie will be followed by Bob Wee, and then hopefully Mr. Jane can say a few words, then I'll just wrap up, and that should be the end of it. So did you want to Was there anything that was said tonight that you wanted to address, or is there any questions for the appraiser while we're here? Yeah.
I just had questions for, I'm not sure who's the more appropriate respondent, but that I had asked Attorney Green and he didn't know the answers to. What is the new square footage of this structure?
That answer I will get to you if you can put a pause on it, because I want to make sure I get it correct.
And I read all the public comment and I've of course heard everyone in the room and everyone online, and I thank everyone as always, for taking the time to come down here and be with us and speak to the issues, because it helps us understand the greater context and the community we are fortunate enough to serve. There seems to be Attorney Green said that in his opinion, the house has not moved towards the water further than the original footprint. However, there are many residents in the room whose two eyeballs I trust more than anyone to tell us what has actually happened. So I just want to understand from you, has the house moved towards the water from the original footprint?
No. So let me explain. And I was gonna do this in my wrap up, but since you asked the question, I'll try to answer it the best I can right now. So with the beach district regulations were established in 1989, there was a setback from Long Island Sound of the front of the existing wall of the house closest to the water. So that's a setback line. It's not a footprint line. So in this particular case, the existing house was elevated. It was put up, the cribbing was put up and the house was put back on that same footprint. And there was an addition that made the house wider, but it's along the same, it's still landward of the setback.
So in other words, it moved laterally, but not.
That is correct. And that's a consistent decision by various agencies and staff in the town of Fairfield, number one. And number two, that was supported by a Superior Court decision. There's two really, Castelli, which I've submitted to the record, which is also Judge Radcliffe, where that house was rotated. So that it was actually a little bit more, it was on the same footprint, but it was also rotated, but it didn't move any further towards the water than it had it at the time of in 1989 when it was established.
So when your clients bought, just so I'm clear, so when your clients bought the house, which I believe was in 2009.
You are correct. Yes, sir.
That where the wall ends, that was where it ended.
Correct.
And when Norins bought their house in 2013, I believe, that was where that structure was.
I don't know whether that structure was relocated or not.
Your client's home.
No, my client's home was in the exact same.
That's what I'm asking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
In 2013, it was still in the same position.
Correct.
So, and now in 2026, it still sits on the same footprint with respect to the water. It has not moved towards the water.
That's correct.
It's just gotten larger, lateral.
That is correct.
Thank you for clarifying.
That is correct. I also want to clear up, since it's come up, and then I'll maybe leave, but there's a lot of talk about it's new construction, there's no, and the commissioner had talked about there's no new wood, and it is the existing structure. There are wood that's remaining. However, it's totally irrelevant. It's irrelevant for the following, and I know it's irrelevant because I learned the hard way on a case with Attorney Fallon on Fairfield Beach Road a few years ago with Judge Radcliffe. It was a Morrison case, which I also submitted. And the house next to the Morrisons was knocked down in one of the storms. I'm not sure which one. And the lot sat vacant for like 3 years, completely vacant. And I made the exact same argument that is a vacant lot. And now you have to go between you have to measure between the two structures. And the ZBA disagreed. And Judge Radcliffe also disagreed with that. And so, and the reason for that is because it's not whether it's a vacant lot now, it's whether, was there a wall, and there was evidence in the record that there was a wall that existed in 1989, and that structure on that particular property was very close. It was the elbow of Fairfield Beach. It was very close to it. And it would have been much more preferable if you could have drawn the line between the two structures. And so I know that the court has already interpreted that. So whether it's new construction or it's elevating the existing, the key point is that it can't go forward of the front wall that existed at the time of the 1989 regulations, because that's a setback line, but it's not a footprint line. You don't have to stay in the same footprint. So you can make it wider. And there's a Castelli case that I talked about that mentions the same thing. So
Any other questions for the appraiser?
any question for the appraiser? So I just want to, so while he's sitting here, I just want to point out it's not our responsibility to disprove some evidence that doesn't exist on the record. You have Mr. Frankie's letter in there talking about and one of the commissioners brought it up earlier. I guess it was an appraisal that was submitted by somebody prior to the last meeting, but it had no comparables, and there was a list of other reasons that were wrong with it. I think I addressed it last month, and Mr. Frankie addressed it in his letter. So I just want to point out, it's not, we're not required to show that the value is not impaired, and there's no evidence in the record that the value is impaired. So I'll leave it with that, unless anybody has any questions for Mr. Frankie.
Mr. Monahan?
So if someone's sightline is disrupted, there's absolutely a claim that the value is disrupted.
So it depends. And maybe, Bud, you can speak to this, but I'll try to speak first on it. So respectfully, there has to be evidence in the record of what that diminution in value is, number one, and that the value is impaired.
It's completely subjective and almost impossible to present data showing that, because no two properties are the same.
Unless you have a before and after comparable sale.
And that's, I mean,
But I will also say,
over time, it would be almost impossible to prove that.
I will also say in that Castelli case, there's discussions about the subjective opinion of value, and the judge disagrees with that and basically says that there has to be professional appraisal in the record.
Respectfully, she is a professional.
No, I don't. I'm not saying that she's not, but what I'm saying is there has to be evidence in the record of comparables, and there has to be an actual appraisal. What was submitted before was just an opinion of value that had no supporting documentation to it.
But that is what an appraisal is when you are doing an appraisal on a property. It's an opinion of value at that moment in time. So it's almost impossible to say, if you're looking out the primary bedroom window and you used to be able to see the water, and now the home next door is built to obstruct the view, almost impossible to say what the effect would be on the buyer of that property, whether or not they would discount their offer on the property due to the fact that they can no longer see the water from their bedroom window.
So, I'm sorry, sir. Yeah. Oh, okay. So to answer that question, there was no, in what was submitted, there was no numbers. There was no evidence of what the diminution in value was.
It's impossible, right?
Well, I'll let Bud speak to whether he thinks it's impossible as our expert, but there's also a wider view of that property, from that property that's in the record. There's pictures that are submitted that it has wide views already. And so there has to be, and respectfully, this is the town's regulation and this is the judge's decision, that there has to be some hard actual evidence in the record of what that diminution in value is. Otherwise, it's a subjective call. I don't know, Al, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, so just so the commission knows, scope of my work to this point, I haven't opined as to whether there's an impairment or not on the adjacent property. I just reviewed the two documents that were submitted. And you're correct, an appraisal is an opinion of value, but it's got to be supported under appraisal standards. It's not impossible. It's not easy to locate data. Because I've done a number of these before. They're called before appraisals. You appraise the property before the condition and you appraise it after the condition. And any difference in those two values is the effect of the condition. You try to isolate the condition. You have my document in the record, and essentially what that says is one of those documents qualifies as an appraisal. It's three sentences, and it doesn't have any data in it at all. It's violated a number of appraisal standards we all operated on. There's something called the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, USPAP, probably know. So as I said, I haven't opined one way or the other. I haven't, it wasn't part of my scope of my work. My job was just to review these two documents to see if they supported the conclusions that they asserted.
There's a difference between appraised value and market value in a lot of cases.
Market value is one type of value that appraisers estimate. So there's investment value, there's all sorts of, several different types of value. In this case, I think we were talking about market value. We are talking about market value, the market value of the adjacent property. That answer.
Yeah, I would have one more follow-up on that, is that I think any appraisal, if one were done, would have to take into consideration the fact that now you have a newer flood compliant, zoning compliant, building code compliant structure next door that makes the neighborhood safer, makes your property safer. And I don't know how that would be taken into consideration, but there's a value added to that as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, just without trying to pin down numbers or comparables or quantifying a specific number, would you agree with the general principle that when you build a structure that limits the view, the shore view, that in general will have some diminution in value of the adjoining property, no matter, it might be small, might be big, but in general, it will have an impact. Is that correct?
So the same standards that I referenced prohibit me from opining on that. I need to know the specifics of this case, and I'd have to see the properties, and I'd have to see the impact on the view, and I'd have to see the impact of what existed before.
I'm not asking about this property or two properties. I'm asking you as an expert, your experience, whether or not you agree with that general proposition.
I can't agree under appraisal standards because
Not asking for an appraisal.
no, I understand, and forgive me, and I don't mean to be evasive, but it's the same criticisms that I put forward in my review letter. Essentially, I'd be doing the same thing if I opined on that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Randolph.
So just to put a fine point on it, it's not that you're contesting that the value might have been impacted. You're saying that the standards of the opinion letter presented don't meet, I don't know, your MAI, but your MAI standards. Is that what you're concluding?
Yes, it's not MAI, but I knew what Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. The appraisal that was submitted, and if you look through that review letter, it will outline specifically where it doesn't comply. There's just no supporting data in either of the letters.
And I guess back to Commissioner Levy, well, I'll just withdraw that. So it's not that you're contesting that the value didn't go down. You're just saying there's an absence of data presented by the opponent saying that the value.
That's all. I haven't taken a position one way, nor could I take a position on the value.
There's just an absence of data based upon your professional standards.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Capozzi.
So just to Commissioner Levy's point, when my husband and I lived in New York City, we rented a beautiful apartment on Lincoln Center. And when we looked at all of the apartments that were basically the same floor plan from floor 3 up until floor, like, I think it was 40 something. Every floor that had the same apartment floor plan, every floor that you went up, the value, the rent increased about between $700 and $1,200 a month, just one floor up, same apartment. Why, in your opinion, would that have been?
That could have been for differing views.
Okay.
Yes.
So in this case, would the same principle potentially hold true?
It may. again, I just don't know enough about the specifics of the two properties or the view.
Here's the aerial of the hoods. In the line.
It's not that simple. I mean, I wish it
not.
were. I
No,
wish
it was,
were.
it's a
not that-
just a general,
Yeah,
a comparison.
I think in the case that you've made, if I had to guess, there was probably a view differential there.
There was a drastic one.
Sure. But then I'm sorry, the scope of my work was simply to review the two documents.
I understand.
I haven't concluded an opinion one way or the other.
So, yeah, and just on that point, so the scope of the work was limited to that because there's not an appraisal with comparables that give you any factual information about what any reduction in value might be.
Okay, thanks, bud. Yeah, thank you.
I'll hear from, Leeway. He's just.
A lot about the police back in 2020.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Robert Weeway. I'm a licensed professional engineer with Coates Bodium Associates. I'd just like to briefly go over some of the presentation from Attorney Green tonight with respect to the stormwater management system. At the time when the engineering department reviewed and approved the gallery system, the criteria that they were using at that particular time was based on their March 19th, 2020 engineering guidelines. And some of the highlights from those guidelines are the following: that stormwater detention is required for additions, additional stories, patios, increases in driveway expansion, dormers, and some other features, or when there is an increase in impervious surface area, 200 square feet or greater. So for this particular project, that met the criteria because there was additional story being added to the existing structure. There's also an addition going off to the side of it. So with that criteria being met, Fairfield Engineering's design criteria is based on the Soil Conservation Service TR55 method of calculating runoff volume for the 25-year frequency, 24-hour duration storm. And their guideline is to basically provide for 34 cubic feet of storage for every 1,000 square feet of impervious surface area that's being proposed as part of the project. And that criteria has been met, and that was approved by the Fairfield Engineering Department through the installation of the 6 Coltech plastic galleries that have been installed and inspected by the Fairfield Engineering Department. So basically, another component of their guidelines is that for any increase in impervious surface area greater than 600 square feet, soil testing is required. So when we take a look at what constitutes the impervious surface area or the increase in it, the only thing that qualifies under this would be the 27 by 22 foot addition, because that is an increase in impervious surface area. So the fact that the existing house was raised up does not increase the impervious surface for the site. So based upon the square footage of that addition, that comes out to approximately 594 square feet, which is less than the minimum requirement of 600 square feet. And therefore, soil testing was not required under their guidelines that were in place at that particular point in time. Now, Section 28 of the Fairfield zoning regulations for stormwater, as referenced by Attorney Green, were not in existence when the Fairfield Engineering Department approved galleries. Chapter 28 of the storm regulations, in fact, became effective March 3rd of this year of 2026. The Fairfield zoning regulations that were in effect when the engineering department approved the concept of the galleries and the installation had no, the Fairfield zoning regulations at that time had no provisions in there for dealing with stormwater runoff and management that section 28A does. So with that, typically what was happening was that the stormwater was being referred over to the engineering department and they were applying their engineering guidelines, which in this particular case were the March 19th of 2020 guidelines that were in place at that time. So I did want to clarify that point. If the commission has any questions, certainly try to answer them.
Let me just interrupt for 1 second. Ms. Hargan, just because I know it's almost 9:15 and we have our 10 o'clock curfew and a few more items. How long do you anticipate for the next item?
We're not gonna get through this.
I know we're certainly not getting to that. Yeah, so. Attorney Fallon.
Excused.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't want to, I know you have a whole team here. I don't want to keep you here.
I appreciate the courtesy and we'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Does anyone have questions for this expert? Commissioner Levy?
The addition is 594.
Yeah, that's based on what was on the site plan of 27 by 22.
And that's to the eastern side of the house.
Correct.
Commissioner, I was given by the architect, oh, sorry. The total square footage, 2,868 square feet approximately.
That's the square footage of the new structure.
Total new structure, correct.
Mr. Chair, did you also want to excuse the other agenda item,
The Beach
the
Road.
town's pump station?
I wasn't sure if there was someone here to present that or if that
They're
was.
online.
Okay,
The town's consultants are online.
okay. I have to assume we're not going to get that one. So if anyone is here for Stilson, and Black Rock Turnpike, anyone?
And I'm just a public speaker on that, if I could.
So I'm not gonna get to it, is what I was getting. Yeah, the public doesn't get to speak until after the presentation.
Didn't know it could be.
And even if we got to the presentation, we wouldn't get through it today. Yeah,
Another date?
it will be another date, yeah. Yes, it'll be posted. So if anyone is here for the remaining items, I apologize, but just courtesy, we're not likely to get to the next item, let alone Stilson Road and Black Rock Turnpike. So
So are you gonna do 1610 Fairfield Beach Road?
I don't think it's 9:15 and we have, how many more experts do you have?
I just have the surveyor and then my wrap up, that's it.
So, but I assume it's probably going to be like at least another 20 minutes. So,
So we are gonna do it?
no, I don't think we're getting to 16:10 tonight either.
So that's it for tonight then?
I mean, we're going to keep going with this, but yeah, I don't think we're starting to.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Do you have the TPZ email address if you have a question of when the thing is rescheduled?
I don't.
And I'm sorry, we never know how long applications.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
I don't know.
If you just go to the town website,
Yes,
you can
yes.
give us a call tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Did anyone have questions for this expert? Thank you.
Question.
Jane?
Go ahead, Commissioner Braun.
I don't know if this is the right expert, but I'm trying to figure out from the wealth of material that's been filed, the height and the elevation, as well as the coverage. I know there are site plans, but I can't find anything that really details the elevation. Can you point to which plans show the base flood elevation, the average grade elevation and the roof elevation? I can't see it I can't find it on anything in here. It probably exists, but there's so much stuff that's been submitted.
Top of the survey.
Yes, Commissioner, I'll try to get you that information. I'm
And
gonna,
do you have something that has how we calculate height based on our definitions and regulation 37, which requires a closed polygon, et cetera, et cetera?
I'll ask the project architect to
Okay.
speak to that.
Okay, and the second thing is coverage. Getting back to the coverage issue, I had asked Attorney Green, could you answer the same question I asked him, which is the cure for a coverage violation is a variance application, not a special exception. Can you address that from your perspective? Because if there's a coverage, because the coverage exceeds what's allowed, and that coverage did not exist before the beach regulations were adopted. So explain that from your perspective, how you deal with that.
So first of all, and the survey that was being referenced was from 2002. It was not for the purposes of this project. It was not certified to the property owners. It is a survey that's on file, but I think one of the commissioners also pointed out that that was incorrect. And I have our surveyor here tonight. I don't know if they'll be able to speak to that, but so the underlying premise that the coverage is excessive or exceeding the regulations or what was legally pre-existing non-conforming, we do not agree with. If it was 27% and now it's 26.9%, we're not required to go back to the 20%. We're allowed to keep what we have that's pre-existing. So we don't agree with the original premise, but to answer your question, if you did exceed a requirement of the zone, a bulk requirement of the zoning regulations, the board to give relief for that is the Zoning Board of Appeals. But we're not required for that because the staff has reviewed that. Numerous people on the staff have reviewed that. We've reviewed that, and we flatly disagree that it's required. So, but
is your argument then that it was 26.9% before 1989? Is that what you were saying?
the argument is that the 2002 survey calculations are incorrect. And the survey is also not the same square footage as the most recent survey. And so, yes, I'm saying that that was incorrect. It was not 20%. It was probably more along the lines of 27%, but I'll have the surveyor speak to that in a minute.
But isn't the definition of being legally non-conforming if the excessive coverage existed before 1989?
The definition of legally pre-existing non-conforming would go back prior to the establishment of the zoning regulations and the various amendments to the zoning regulations over the years. So it's not non-conforming if it's legally pre-existing. It's legally pre-existing non-conforming, and you're allowed to keep that same coverage. So as long as you don't increase or exceed that coverage, you stay the same or you reduce it, that's totally allowed by the zoning regulations.
So it's a question of fact then, I guess, when the increase took place above 20%, and you're claiming the increase was before 1989, and Attorney Green is claiming it was after 1989. Is that the question that we're dealing with?
I don't know that that's an issue because there's evidence in the record that shows the same two structures with brick walkways instead of wood walkways and the same. So it's generally the same coverage that it's been for, I think, going back, I don't know exactly, but at least like in the 1960s, there's a photo in the record that shows the existing, the previous brick walkways and so on and so forth. So I don't think there's any question of fact. What's happening, part of the problem is you have an attorney, non-surveyor, non-technical professional opining and picking apart a survey from 2002 that's not part of this application. And so that, we're here with a bunch of experts tonight for a reason, to answer your questions, whether they're hard questions or not. And the surveyors or the engineers, those are the ones that can answer those questions. Some of the commission members may have done the work or have the ability to answer a lot of these questions as well. But I don't think there's any question of fact. I think that it was 27% and now it's 26.8 or 26.9%.
Isn't the question when the 26 or 27% was added above the 20%?
Well,
that is the question, right?
Well, it's probably always been over 20% is based on my experience. It's probably been over 20% since the two houses were built. One was in 1904 and one was in 1926. So since those houses and brick walkways were placed it's probably always been over 20%.
So we would have to verify that we'd have to look at all the evidence in the record, aerial photos or surveys, et cetera.
We have substantial evidence.
I couldn't tell by looking at the multitude of things in the record, honestly.
We have substantial evidence in the record about that, and we have the survey, the recent survey for this project.
So if we determine that the overage was added after 1989, then that would be a coverage violation. Do we all agree on that interpretation of the law?
I would not necessarily agree with that either, because I don't know what that coverage would be. The zoning regulations change, I can't give an answer to that right now. I mean, I don't know when that would happen, but I think that's what you would call a legal red herring, because it's something that's, we're having a long conversation about that right now, and I want to be responsive to all of your questions, but we're going off a claim from, again, a 2002 survey that was probably incorrect, does not have the most recent data or ability, for whatever reason is incorrect. It wasn't done for this purpose, and it wasn't certified to this property owner. So it's submitted in the record. I guess it's anecdotal or informative, but it doesn't mean that, and we don't have that surveyor here to ask that person any questions. We have our surveyor here to answer questions for that, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sir, did you have any?
Were you gonna present?
This is,
Jim Jamison, licensed architect, offices in Weston. To address your question about the building height, if you look at the as-built survey and look at the zoning chart on that, you will see that it indicates the average grade, the finished floor elevation, and the roof height. And because it's a gabled roof, the roof height is measured to the midpoint of the roof. And we are in full compliance with the zoning regulations of not exceeding 32 feet above the average grade. The structure is built, we're in a LIMWA zone. So even though we're in AE zone, which has less strict requirements under FEMA, limited wave action zone, we needed to design to the VE zone, which is stricter regulations. So you have the base flood elevation plus another foot of freeboard until you get to the lowest structural member.
Do you identify the name of the document you're referring to? Because I don't see anything called as-built survey in here in all the documents I've
It would be
downloaded.
the latest survey prepared by Neil Jane.
And what is the date of that and the title of the document or the?
the title of it is As-Built Survey.
Yeah, title's
Is that the
Would've
name
been
of
filed.
the PDF or is that?
That would have been, I don't know the name of the PDF. That's the name of the document.
So it's in the record somewhere?
It's part of the application that was filed.
This one is only, it goes back to 2025, so that's not the as-built.
That's for the
I'm
drainage.
sorry.
Yeah,
The
that's just
date,
for the drainage. The as-built was done in the last couple months.
the date of the document you're talking about again?
Will be the as-built survey.
Date of it.
And the date, that had to be.
Is it buried in a package that's multiple pages long perhaps? Because
Would have been
There's
filed
nothing
with the
called-
actual application itself.
Yeah, it should be in our application.
I'll look for that. Thank you.
Randolph. So I see the elevations that you presented. I didn't see a plan. Any plans for the building? Were they?
Floor plans?
Or really a site plan? Is there a site plan?
That
Yeah,
as-built.
they're just site plans as-built because the
I'm just looking at the survey.
proposal review application doesn't require floor plans.
Application survey. That's the drainage.
So
layout.
so I'll refer to the land survey. And on here, there's blue hatched area and pretty sure I'm reading this right. That's the increase building?
That's correct. That's the
Okay.
addition.
So, I apologize for this, but, so right now there are two buildings, there are two homes there, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
And so the restriction is, I mean, since there is considered to be not a substantial change, two homes are permitted. Is that the logic and is that your interpretation of the ordinance?
Under that beach district, right? Yes,
but-
correct.
And so this hatched area is covering an area that wasn't covered before.
That's correct.
So that's not, it's as Commissioner Monahan pointed out, that's the new construction.
Yes.
Well, the entire house had to be elevated to meet
I'm not talking
FEMA.
about elevated, I'm talking about new construction.
Yeah, that's technically all new construction.
So of this building, how much is remaining?
Well, the
existing
the
building?
existing building is remaining, correct?
Yes.
And then it's added 594 square
The
feet,
existing house number 172?
66.
166.
166 of that, what percentage of that is new construction?
594 square feet versus 840, so 3/4. Yeah, the total square footage of the house is 2868.
2868 and
Right.
the old house was how big?
And the old house was 1680,
So more than half,
1200, so
Yeah.
1680, so.
which would
I
exclude,
think 600, and the house was, this is half, less than half, less than the size of the previous house.
and I should know this, but your calculation is on usable here?
It's building, it's measured on the outside of the building.
So the lower level
Lower levels is
excluded.
wide open.
Yeah.
So that's non-habitable space,
Excluded the
so,
square footage though.
right, exactly.
So more than half the building is new, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say at this point.
And so back to, let's call it my grandfather's hatchet.
Yeah.
Mr. Green had I think it's referring to the classics. I didn't know it. Replace the handle, replace the blade. Is it still my grandfather's hatchet?
Hmm.
So the question is, in your professional opinion, I'm a registered architect too. Is it still? Does this have any resemblance? What resemblance does this have to the existing building? And I know this is down to an ordinance interpretation, but what is remaining from this new building that was there prior?
Well, the existing building was block, one-story block garage.
Wood frame.
It was, no, the first floor was cement block.
Okay.
Okay, second floor with wood frame.
Good.
So we elevated that in place and put a new floor structure in because the floor structure that was there was non-code compliant. Dropped the building down and preserved as much of the existing framing that we could salvage.
The masonry structure.
No, the wood structure, the second floor wood structure.
So in this elevation we've got here, that second
It's all
level.
new, it's all new sheathing all the way around because it was 1x6
The pitch of the roof,
lathing.
the same?
I would say the pitch of this roof is very close to the old roof.
Are they rafters?
Well, the roof came off because we added a second floor to the old
Right,
house.
so basically it's one level of this, I'll say dark patched area.
Right, that right-hand side, the first floor, that's the framework of the existing.
So one level of this is the same and this is new. So the footprint expanded significantly. And you raised, basically, you restored one
side of it, right?
One
Exactly, and put a second floor on it.
Thank you. I don't want to take up too much of your time. so-
May I just ask the significance of the new construction versus the existing in your, opinion, so I can address that necessary?
Are you allowed to ask me questions?
Well, I want to be able to answer your question so we can close the hearing.
I think he answered my question.
Okay.
Other questions? Commissioner Braun?
Okay, I think I found what you're referring to. It's, there's a chart that says as built with, blank sections on the right-hand column. And it has minimum, maximums, et cetera, existing conditions. So it says the elevation maximum height that you're proposing is 34 feet 2 inches. And existing is 19 feet. And the maximum allowed is 30, but then you have a bonus. Could you just explain how you calculate the bonus? Because I'm trying to figure out where the source material is for this. It says average grade of the house is 7.5 feet. That's the elevation is what, so the elevation is 7.5 feet. How does that get you to getting the bonus of 4.2 feet above what the regulations allow?
Well, when you elevate a building in Fairfield for FEMA, it's a calculation between how you're elevating the building and you get a bonus of a certain amount of square feet to be able to apply that to your final height.
How is that done here? What is is the calculation shown somewhere?
It's right
Mr.
below.
Chair, can I answer the question, please?
ahead.
I'd like to ask him to answer the question because it's his material that he's.
Zoning official knows the chapter and verse.
It's a uniform requirement within our zoning regulations.
Right, I would like him to answer the question of what is in his application materials. That's what I'm asking. I'm looking at our zoning regulation. I'm asking him to explain how we got from point A to point B. Is it, where in the materials does it show the calculation or how this is done?
Yeah, it's on the
It's on
as-built.
that chart, right? Is that source material in the chart?
There's a calculation, it might be in blue letters below the chart,
I see that.
shows how that's calculated, the extra bonus.
So our regulations say in 37, a closed polygon has to be shown on the site plan. Is that on this site plan that we could look at?
I don't have it in front of me, so.
This is not a complicated grade calculation. It's a very flat site.
I'm just asking for the source material from the person who prepared the source material. But I am looking at that is your source material, what I'm referring to then? There is no other material that has the calculation in it?
No, it's all on this survey.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Any other questions for this expert? Okay.
I have a question.
Monahan, go
How
ahead.
big is the deck? And how is the deck changing in size?
We're keeping the existing deck.
So how big is that?
It's, about 12 by 20. 13 by 20.
And is there a reason that some of the surveys have all of the different components broken out and this one doesn't?
No,
Attorney Green had mentioned and
No reason.
usually, okay. But
And
did
this
you ever
is-
see-
this
Did you
is-
ever see one with the numbers broken out?
no, in this property, no.
Did you ever ask for it?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
The survey is certified A2, an A2 survey, so it fulfills those requirements. If there are additional dimensions put on there by someone else, then they've gone beyond what is the base standard.
I don't think we have that one.
I think this has been submitted with the applications.
We had a small version of it.
We can submit this for the record.
I think you gave it to us. For sure.
Where is it on here? I don't see that.
That one, there's two surveys in the folder. There is one that is referred to as site plan, and then the other one is referred to that has the stormwater.
That one's called survey.
That one's called survey.
And what are the dates of those surveys? The date stamped on it?
Okay.
Hang on one second, Commissioner Braun.
Yeah, well, the date on this is 5/25.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The date on the site plan is 2/5/25.
Yeah,
Thank you.
not correct.
And that's the date that I have, 2/5/25.
I'm looking at something that says 11.
There are revisions.
Three.
Next revision is 11/20/24, 11/1/2024, 11/1/2024, so.
So Jonathan, where is that in the backup documents?
That is in the August 11th meeting folder, C1, 166, 170, Pine Creek Avenue, and it's document titled Pine Creek Ave, 166, 172 site plan. Dated, the date saved was 7/10/2026.
Cycle. That one says preferred layout. And his does not say preferred layout.
I'm not,
The preferred layout is the drainage, shows the drainage plan.
So that's the one I have here. I have the storm drainage on there. So that one doesn't have that.
That's right, this one doesn't have storm drainage.
See that? Show it to you.
Same one, only it doesn't have this.
Most of it's there, most of the. Things there.
anything further for this expert?
I think so the plan I'm looking at is called Improvement Location Survey. And it's originally dated 11/3/2008, but updated 2/5/2025. That's the one we're talking about that has the elevation and calculations on it.
The one that we're referring to is as last dated 2/5/25. It's first
Okay.
dated 11/1/2024. We can submit that in, we can leave that for the record. Yeah.
Well, the original date was 2008, but then it was updated a bunch of times, the last of which, there's only one of these improvement location surveys, right? Except that it's been updated a few times.
I'm not sure, Commissioner, what you're reviewing as far as the record, so I don't know if there's been other things
Okay.
uploaded by other people.
I do have the one that has that date on it, though.
So, yeah.
Our last expert.
Yes, it's our surveyor. Thanks, Jim.
Yep.
My name is Neil Jain and surveying services in Redwood, Fairfield. Been surveying for 45 years. I have my own business for last 33 years.
Are you presenting or do you,
So
are we-
yeah, I know that there was a number of questions that came up, and so I didn't know we wanted to.
Does anyone have questions?
Questions about the survey.
Commissioner Randolph, go ahead.
Mr. Jane, there's some questions about the accuracy of your survey. I think one of the questions was there was no, and I might use the wrong word, datum established. Could you address that?
And markers.
The markers, yeah.
One of the questions came up about the accuracy of the survey. All I can tell you is this, that what is Class A2 survey? Class A2 survey is the accuracy of the survey, which is 1 in 5,000. When the original Connecticut Association of Land Surveyors came to effect, they set up some guide rules. One was A1 survey, which was 1 in 10,000. A2 was 1 in 5,000. Those are all accuracy. There's also Class D survey, which is a compilation survey. According to Mr. Green, that no markers were set or presented here. If you look at the general notes, all my surveys or most of the surveys that are done these days, they are dependent resurveys. That means those surveys were dependent on some of the map references that I have put on here and some of the old surveys. So they are all dependent resurveys. No pins or pipes or drill holes that are on this map needs to be shown on here because they are based on these maps. So that was one of the reasons those pins and pipes are not shown on here. The other thing is, Mr. Green was saying that baseline is not established. If you look at the Pine Creek Avenue, I have shown baseline. That is one of the requirements in Fairfield, that front setback is based on the baseline. Excuse me, I'm a little tired, I'm diabetic, I'm getting old, so it's late. So baseline is shown on this map, and all the distance are related to that baseline. Back in the days when this 2002 survey was done, that was done probably close to 1 in 5,000 because it is through Class A2 survey. Nowadays, when we do the surveys with all these modern equipment, my surveys are usually 1 in 30,000. So it goes way beyond accuracy. This is as accurate as it can get. Not only that, we also surveyed next door neighbor to Mr. Norton's survey. And actually I brought a little, just to, not to brag about it, but the entire Pine Creek Avenue. And we have done at least 90% of the surveys on Pine Creek. So my surveys are accurate because we have done so many surveys over there. The other thing is, upon request of my client, I had to look over this old survey, which actually we used way back when I first surveyed in 2008. And at that time, the question came up about the accuracy of the survey regarding coverage. One of the things were shown here was 20%. Now, if you look at the 20%, I think, in my experience, that is wrong. Number one, it's in the wrong column. They don't even show minimum required or maximum required as 20%. They are showing existing as 20%. But if you just calculate just 2 buildings, and the area is shown on those 2 buildings, they come up to be about 25%. But not to mention all the impervious area, the decking and the pavers, which is counted as coverage. So upon request of my client, I calculated.
Good. Mr. Chairman, what's the issue? It's new material.
It's not new material to say, here are numbers that are in the public record and multiplying them.
I mean, he submitted the claim that this was 20%.
So I calculated all the impervious surface, not including the driveway, because you're not supposed to include that. It comes out to actually 36%. This is 2002 survey that Mr. Green presented to you. And they're saying that it's 20% is totally wrong. And I can show it to you. Everything in red is counted as coverage, and it comes out to 36%. As far as
Can I ask a question? So you're using the 2002 survey. Is that correct?
as for the property lines, yes.
No. You just cited a figure at 36%. Are you using the 2002 survey as your basis?
No, he's got,
Okay.
yeah, you don't want to submit
That's
that.
fine.
I just wanted to be clear what survey you're using as your basis.
I'm not using it, I'm just showing you the calculation that is an error from 2002 survey.
Okay, so you're not introducing new evidence, you're using the 2002 survey that's already in the record
That's
to,
correct.
as the basis for this
I'm
calculation.
just proving it to you that it is wrong.
Yes, sir, I understand. I just wanted to clarify that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Levy.
I mean, we know, or I'm assuming that the existing house and the existing cottage are basically the same size that they were back in 1928, correct?
Until 2000.
All the way,
25.
I mean, the houses haven't changed. And the lot, whether it's measured correctly or not, the lot itself hasn't changed.
No, it hasn't.
Okay, and it's your opinion that the 20% is inaccurate and that the lot coverage is far, far higher, correct?
That's correct.
But that includes, when you figure lot coverage, you're including things like brick and deck. We don't know when those bricks were added, do we? Were they there in 1928? I guess the question is, when you say the existing condition was, was it 20?
2008.
What would the existing well, on the as-built or the final survey, right? The maximum, the maximum building lot coverage, you list the existing as 26.9, but that's existing as of when?
As of 2008,
Okay.
November 3, 2008.
And we don't know whether that was the existing coverage at the time zoning regulations went in, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And as far as the 20% max, was that the max allowed in 2008, if you recall?
Yeah, they're still required.
Okay, so, because what we do know is in terms of your current lot coverage, your calculation, you've added 594 feet addition, but you subtracted basically the brick and the deck, and that's how you're coming out with less than existing. Have I got that right?
Just give me one. And you'll be correct on that one. We took out the walkway and the patio and replaced that square footage with the addition.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, we don't know what the allowed or what the existing lot coverage was back when the initial non-conforming condition developed.
That not before 2002 now.
Yeah, before 2002, but I would point out that there's information in the record that shows aerial footage in 1991. There's also information in the record that shows, I think it's in the 60s, that show the pre-existing brick. So we don't have a survey that has the calculation of the lot coverage percentage done, but it shows the same site.
That's been there a long time.
That's our position, yes. Yes, sir.
Do you have an opinion on whether the Connecticut General Statute, Section 8-13A, as amended in 2025, is applicable to lot coverage in this instance?
There is only applicable for the site setback. So after 3 years, if the building's been there for over 3 years within the setback.
Right, so even though it
You're-
says building or structure so situated for 3 years without the institution of an action to enforce such regulation, that building or structure shall be deemed a non-conforming building or structure in relation to such boundaries, blah, blah, blah. Does that have to do just with the setback, or does it have to do with coverage, the coverage itself?
Only to the setback.
Is there an analog statute that has to do with coverage, or is it, okay, got it, thank you.
Randolph.
So I'm sorry, I agree with you that the numbers are inconsistent and the 20% seems to be one of the bigger errors, but You got to 26.9 and just working backwards, that would be 3,058 roughly. And I don't see that on this exhibit.
3,050, what is 3,000?
It's 26.9% of
Okay.
11,370.
Yeah, so if unlike Westport, Fairfield doesn't require breakdown of the coverage. Westport does, a couple other towns does, but Fairfield doesn't require that, so we never put it in. I've been working here for a very long time and nobody ever questioned about the coverage.
I'm just asking, so the two buildings are 1750 and 959, the dark gray ones. And so that's 2709. And then we get to 3058 based upon the back calculating it. And I'm not, this light blue hatched area seems a lot bigger than, that discrepancy of 33 feet. I just can't, I can't get your numbers to, I know it sounds like we're not, it's hard to have them on there, but I just don't understand how you got the number. 3,058.
It is all, have you calculated wood patio in the back?
That would be more.
Right. So this is all in a grayscale area. If you look at the steps coming down from the wall, you see the gray line coming down with the
I see it, but I'm just saying that these two gray, the two dark gray, silver gray buildings here, total 2709. The hatched area, just looking at it intuitively, is way more than 300 feet. You're talking about additional coverage on top of that. I just don't, it doesn't, I can't, it intuitively doesn't make sense to me looking at this, so.
if the front walkway clearly shows that that wasn't included in coverage, but the rear walkway and the patio in the back by the steps, that was included in the coverage. They all comes out to be about 500 and whatever square feet this building is. I don't have the exact calculations. They were all calculated by computer. They're as accurate as it can be. But they are accurate. That's all I can tell you about that, and I have certified to it. And that's where the class A2 accuracy comes out to.
And you've measured the existing building?
We measured everything, every single inch of the property.
Not proposed, but what's there now?
That's correct. That's where this as-built is. And as-built is still partial as-built. It's not finished yet, so I don't have the exact coverage.
Mr. Delgado, I think, just gave me the answer, so.
Commissioner Braun?
Commissioner Braun?
The 7.5 is the average grade of the property, which is one of the figures used in calculating the bonus height you were able to get at 34.2 feet. Is the 7.5 before construction or after construction?
Oh, all before construction.
And what is the after construction?
It's not based
It's
on.
not, that's irrelevant at this point because the construction is not finished yet.
But it's also my understanding,
We don't. if-
Fairfield regulations don't, they only go pre-construction elevation, not post-construction elevation. Is that accurate?
And we
This
don't
says-
allow for regrading in the floodplain.
That's correct.
So.
This,
whatever
okay,
the
so this says the average ground
elevation is.
elevation shall be established for the pre-construction and post-construction conditions. The lower of the two results shall be used to determine the height of the building or structure. So there's been no change in there's been no grading so far?
Not that I'm aware of now.
May I, Mr. Chair, add to this
Sorry.
conversation? So in the flood zone, we're very sensitive about pre-existing grades and post-construction grades. So our zoning enforcement staff will look at a survey pre-construction and expect the post-construction survey to match the existing grades that are there. And if they're not the same, they will go out and make the property owner revise the grades so that they're back to pre-construction.
And it's been done before.
In the floodplain, we expect every property to accept a certain amount of flood storage based on the existence of what the grades are on that property. And people can't grade their way even a little bit out of the floodplain. So the flood storage they provide today needs to be the flood storage they provide tomorrow when a project is finished. And that's the way our zoning enforcement office has handled that for, for a long time.
So is it your intention to close the hearing?
So I think you said you had some wrap-up remarks as well.
I mean, I'm aware of your time. I think you've heard enough from everybody. I think that the experts here and the substantial evidence in the record supports not only the four or five different criteria of the special exception. Several of them weren't even questioned. And there's no expert testimony in the record from the public or the opponent that counters any of the expert testimony to be put into the record. We believe we comply with the special exception requirements. It is in compliance with the neighborhood. The reason, just real quickly, why some of the other properties were submitted as part of it, number one, is to show that Mr. Jane surveyed the property next door as well. And also that I think there's 13 properties in the district, including the property next door, that have two houses. Some of them have been approved and redone. The commissioner shaking his head maybe disagrees with that, but there's from the list I have, there's provided by my client, there's several properties in the neighborhood in the Beach District that have two dwellings that have gotten approvals. Some have not, moved forward with doing any improvements. So when you look at the one of the criteria of the special exception is compliance with the character of the neighborhood. It's residential, it's two dwelling units that's allowed, that's conforming in the zone. There's a variety or several other properties in the zone that that have the same use. We haven't intensified the use. It's still it's two single-family residential cottages. I don't want to rehash, how we got here. I went over that extensively at the first hearing. There's been information submitted. Mr. Coiner submitted a letter today that was in response to some of the neighbor comments that basically addresses all of those. And I think that it's, the commission has a tough decision and we appreciate you and we're grateful for the opportunity to be here and the Coiners are grateful. And we, appreciate an approval. If there's reasonable conditions that the commission might think that need to be attached to it, then, we take those as they come, I suppose. It's totally at the discretion of the commission, but this is an administrative decision, both the special exception and the coastal site plan application. And you heard earlier last month that there was no negative impact to coastal resources and staff has said it's zoning compliant. Deep have any issues with it. Tried to continue to answer all of the questions, even up until the last minute, like late this afternoon. So we appreciate your time. And if you feel that you have sufficient information and don't need any more information, we'd ask that you close the hearing.
Final. Go ahead.
I still don't feel like we have a breakdown of how big is the deck, how big is this house, how big is the other house?
What other house?
So the
the
existing cottage
septis.
built in 1909, I believe it is how big? How big was the existing house that was replaced? And then we have an addition of 27 by 22. And then we have a deck of 13 by 20. I know we don't need to break all of this down, but it's important that the math mats.
To like, submit, calculations, I have no problem with that.
So I think, I don't necessarily submit new information, or if you feel like you have to keep the public hearing open for that new information, I understand. The square footage is in the assessor's records, which is in the file, and the plans should be scaled. We have submitted this PDF, this as-built, the PDF for the application. So it could be scaled off the plan. And I think it's Mr. Jane's testimony that as you said, Commissioner, that not all of that information is necessary to make it on an A2 survey, but it would be helpful for you to ascertain and make an informed decision.
Mr. Excuse me, Joel, do you have this document?
I don't know what. The as-built site plan that was submitted with the application. What's that?
Yeah, he gave us.
I know, I've never seen this and it's not in the record.
It's submitted with the application.
It's the same base drawing.
Yes.
It's the same base drawing.
Yeah.
Mr. Jane,
It's submitted with the record.
same base drawing?
Yes, it is.
It's in there under site plan.
So this is in the, yeah.
Substantially similar.
Mine says it's in there.
There's two surveys in there. There's one that's labeled survey, and then there's another one that is labeled. I think it's the site plan that has the drainage on it.
That was prepared by Curtis Party.
Everyone, do you want
It's not your survey.
Based on my survey.
Just tell the commission where it is.
Just a point of clarification, the drawing you have here and the drawing that Mr. Green handed out are the same base CAD layer drawings with
That's correct.
substantially the same information.
Too small.
One might have different notes, but all the dimensions are identical. That's my question.
That's correct.
Identical.
They are identical, yes.
And the dimensions are in documents that are in the public record, so I think we don't need to hold the hearing open to get the calculation. So if you want to provide us the calculation after, we don't need to put the hearing open to that. Any one of us in theory could just do the math.
Unless
Any,
Mr. Green,
I don't think we can receive calculations after the hearing is closed.
we can, Commissioner Braun, the dimensions are here. That's not new information to get someone to multiply numbers for us. If one of us wants to do it, we can.
As far as I know, that document is not in the record.
I agree with you. It's not on the record.
It's not.
I've been sitting here scrolling.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is it was submitted with the application. I don't know if it's not uploaded or.
One submitted with the application is revised as of February 5th, and then one that has the stormwater or those orange boxes is the same one with a stamp on it that says preferred.
The as-built was submitted,
It's 5/2/5/25, right?
no, May 11th.
25 is the one that was submitted,
Right. That's right.
but you have one there that's,
May 11, 26,
that one is not in the
as-built
record.
survey.
Not in the record.
Partial as-built survey should have been there. But it doesn't matter because it's exactly the same as it was proposed.
can you hand it in right now?
Yeah.
Do it right now.
Are we saying there's two site plans? I only see one thing called a site plan.
Know that we got a partial as-built, but I know that we have the survey. But we have this
The
one?
drawing is substantially the same.
Is there anything?
There's nothing that has a breakdown of the dimensions on it.
Yeah, I don't know that we received this one, but
Did you see anything?
It's not really.
I didn't have the breakdown.
That's why.
There's no table on it, but that's not required by the ordinance.
If you look at the zoning charts.
Right.
You do have it.
Yeah, for sure.
If you wanna keep this.
I already got a copy.
Hard to say that's the number.
It's-
Without having. it.
it's up to you, but if it's
Is there new
if it's
information on there?
essentially
that-
the same as the other survey,
If there's
then I
nothing-
would
if
not
there's
bother
no-
submitting this.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
I'm not
I
sure.
just don't think it's material to keep the public hearing open.
I agree.
So I would not submit this. I would just rely on that one.
Can we just submit it so that you know, this
I
document?
think it's the same, it's
Bring it back.
basically the same as that one.
It's identical,
CAD file. Same CAD file.
same cat.
Any final questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Saden. We will, close the public hearing of this item, and being the last item that we're actually getting to tonight, we'll thank you, everyone, for staying.